Chapter 29. Mo Hualing was so angry that she hung up the phone. Jiyu Jingze listened to the beeping sound of the phone and paused for a while. Seeing that the doctor had arrived, he followed him into Lin Che's ward. The doctor examined Lin Che. The wound on her leg had recovered well and she would be able to walk soon. Jiyu Jingze watched from the side. When he went out to answer the phone, Lin Che had already finished her meal. At this time, he was still discussing with the doctor whether the room here was really beautiful. She was so heartless. Jiyu Jingze looked at the scar and said to the doctor, "Can the scar on her leg be removed?" The doctor said to Jiyu Jingze respectfully and carefully, "It depends on the person's physique. Madam doesn't have any scars on her body, so I don't think she's a scar type. Maybe she'll recover well, but such a deep scar will leave some marks." When he stitched the wound, he purposely used a non-scar suture method. However, the wound still looked hideous at this moment. Jiyu Jingze didn't like scars on her body. Looking at her wound, he frowned and said, "I hope my wife doesn't have any scars on her body. Find the best doctor and think of a solution." The doctor's face darkened and he nodded quickly. Seeing that the doctor had left, Lin Che looked up and said to Jiyu Jingze, "It looks like there will be some scars, but it's okay. If you're filming, you can just cover it with powder." Jiyu Jingze looked at her deeply. "No, if it doesn't work here, I'll find the best doctor in the world to treat you. He won't let you have any scars." Looking at his serious expression, Lin Che felt a little warm in her heart. She smiled at him and said, "Why? You don't like me because I have scars on my body? Really, a wife who has gone through thick and thin together can't leave the hall. Do you hear me? No matter how ugly I am, you can't despise me." Jiyu Jingze was speechless. He looked at Lin Che and said, "Don't worry. I won't dislike you. I just don't want to see scars on your body." He didn't want to see her get hurt, especially because of him. Looking at Lin Che in the striped hospital gown, he felt even more uncomfortable when he thought of her fair and flawless skin that had such a big scar because of him. Lin Che moved slightly. He looked at him and said, "Or do you feel guilty when you see it?" Jiyu Jingze glared at her. "What are you thinking?" However, he did feel a little guilty. Lin Che said, "I really feel guilty. Treat me better in the future. Just don't throw me out for no reason." Jiyu Jingze was stunned. He remembered that he had thrown her at the door that day. Wasn't it because her mouth was too lousy, which made him angry? Ever since he was born, he had never met a woman who was as bold as her and dared to speak to him in such a manner. However, as he looked deeply at Lin Che, he still quietly said a single word. "All right." Lin Che raised his head in surprise and looked at Jiyu Jingze. He was in a trance for a moment. What did he just say? Jiyu Jingze averted his gaze, lowered his head, and put away the medicine the doctor brought for her. He began to pour water for her to take the medicine. On the first day, Lin Che's wound still hurt a little. But, because the hospital had already given him the best medicine, he didn't feel as bad anymore. At night, it was time for Lin Che to sleep. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and narrowed her eyes as she asked, "What are you going to do at night?" Jiyu Jingze said, "You don't have to worry about me. I'll just sit here." Lin Che said, "Why don't you go back to sleep?" "No need. I'll watch over you here." Jiyu Jingze felt that she would be too lonely if he left her here alone. After all, unlike other people who had a group of family members around them, she only had him as her husband. Lin Che said, "There's really no need. Why don't you find a place to sleep outside?" Jiyu Jingze said, "No, there are a lot of equipment here at night. You need someone to watch over you too. I'll be fine here." "Ah." Then. Lin Che was a little touched. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and then at her bed. The beds in the VIP ward were much bigger than the normal ones. She thought for a moment and patted her bed. "Why don't you come up and sleep? The bed is big enough." Jiyu Jingze's eyes flashed imperceptibly as he looked at the spot where she patted. A feeling of delight flashed across his heart. He didn't feel repulsed at all. Seeing that he didn't refuse or agree, Lin Che said, "Why? Are you afraid that I'll pounce on you? You might as well put the pillow in the middle. The bed is so big that it can be spread out." Jiyu Jingze frowned slightly. Okay. It's decided then. Rest early. Seeing that he really agreed, Lin Che quickly moved to the side to make room for him. Jiyu Jingze tidied up briefly before getting onto the bed. The two of them slept on one side with a pillow in the middle. However, Lin Che overestimated her ability. Even though she was lying down, she felt that she could faintly feel the breath of the man next to her, even though the person next to her seemed to be asleep and not moving at all. Luckily, with the help of the medication, she finally fell asleep after a while. Jiyu Jingze felt that the person next to him was no longer turning over and her breathing had gradually subsided. He knew that she was probably asleep. Sighing, he turned over and prepared to sleep too. However, just as he was about to fall asleep, a leg suddenly landed on his body. Jiyu Jingze's eyes darkened. Did Lin Che's leg not hurt anymore? Even if she was injured, it wouldn't affect her sleeping posture. To avoid touching her wound, he grabbed her slender thigh and carefully pushed it over. However, in the next moment, a soft arm landed on it again. Jiyu Jingze thought. He knew that unless there was a knife in the middle, nothing would be able to stop this woman who liked to move around. He carefully grabbed her arm, turned his head and gently put it back. But he was looking at her face, which was sleeping peacefully. Her red lips were tender and beautiful. This woman with strong vitality seemed to be completely different from the woman who was on the verge of death yesterday. She quickly recovered her vitality. At this moment, she moved forward. Jiyu Jingze paused. He felt that her lips were already in front of him. As long as he moved slightly, he would be able to touch her soft red lips. The moist touch made his whole body tremble. A wave of electricity passed through his body. He stared at her mouth and suddenly felt his mouth go dry. However, she started moving again. Her small lips directly rubbed against his lips. A wave of heat made Jiyu Jingze frown completely. Lin Che, are you playing with fire? A dangerous warning came from his thin lips. If you dare to move around recklessly again, I dare you. However, it was clear that Lin Che didn't hear his hoarse voice at all. Chapter 30. Jiyu Jingze's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her lips. They were perfectly shaped, moist, tender, and moist. The red flesh of a fruit was a little tempting. He tilted his head and moved closer. However, just as he moved closer, the pair of large, calm eyes suddenly opened. His cold face froze on the spot as he looked at Lin Che's hazy eyes. She rubbed her eyes in a daze. For a moment, she felt that the distance between them was a little ambiguous. The effects of the drug made her unable to think clearly. You. Puzzled, she looked at his sexy lips that were curled up in front of her. She felt an itch in her heart. Sleep well. He coughed dryly and covered her eyes. After a while, her breathing became even again. And Jiyu Jingze turned his head away, not looking at the woman next to him again. But when he closed his eyes again, he could still feel her arm on his chest. He frowned. But he seemed to be getting used to her continuous attacks. After a while, he fell asleep. The next day, when Lin Che woke up, Jiyu Jingze was long gone. Jiyu Jingze didn't bring her breakfast until she finished washing up. Lin Che's leg was no longer painful. She was in a good mood. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and said, I told you that you could sleep like that last night. You look much better now. Jiyu Jingze only looked at her quietly. He didn't say anything about how she lay on his body and drooled on his neck when he woke up in the morning. Now that he thought about it, he still felt an itch on his neck. The doctor quickly came to change Lin Che's dressing. The wound seemed to have healed a lot, but the scar was still ugly. Jiyu Jingze didn't look well. Doctor, when will my wife's leg be completely healed? Hearing Jiyu Jingze's deep voice, the doctor said hurriedly, this will take. Before he could answer, Jiyu Jingze's phone rang. Jiyu Jingze looked at it. It was Mo Hualing. He still wanted to listen to the doctor. He hung up the phone. Seeing this, the doctor continued, this is, but just then, the phone rang again. Jiyu Jingze looked at the phone impatiently. Mo Hualing's name kept flashing. On the other end, Lin Che raised his head and said, Jiyu Jingze, let's talk after you're done with the call. Jiyu Jingze's face froze. He looked at Lin Che and walked out with his phone. When he picked up the phone, he sounded a little impatient. Hui Ling, what's the matter? Mo Huiling pouted coquettishly over the phone. Why did you hang up on me just now? Jiyu Jingze was still thinking about the doctor's words. He said on the phone, I was busy just now. What's wrong? Mo Huiling said, you didn't come to my birthday and you didn't leave me after that. Jingze, what's wrong with you? Jiyu Jingze thought of her birthday. She had a car accident that day, so she didn't go. After that, she had been taking care of Lin Che. I'm just busy these days. Jiyu Jingze didn't tell Mo Huiling because it hadn't been announced to the public yet. I'm sick. Aren't you going to come and see me? Mo Huiling complained. You're sick? Jiyu Jingze asked. Mo Huiling choked and said, I want you to come and keep me company. I don't care what you're busy with. Jingze, I won't get better if you don't come and see me. I feel like I'm dying now. Was it that serious? To the extent that she was about to die. After Jiyu Jingze returned to the ward, he said to Lin Che, something happened to Hui Ling. I have to go and take a look. Lin Che was stunned. She looked at him and nodded. Oh, go ahead. There are so many people here watching. It'll be fine. Jiyu Jingze nodded and looked at her deeply. He walked over, reached out to tuck her in the blanket and straightened her leg. I'll ask someone to come and watch you. You're not sleeping well. Don't touch your wound, he said. Lin Che said in surprise, how is it not sleeping well? Jiyu Jingze remembered what happened at night. He snorted at her and said, you almost went to heaven. You're not sleeping well. Anyway, be careful. If you touch it again and bleed, you can't keep your leg. All right, stop nagging. Hurry up and find Miss Mo. Isn't she in a hurry? Hearing her words, Jiyu Jingze thought she was right. He nodded and went out. He drove for half an hour to Mo Huiling's house. Mo Huiling's room was like a princess's room. She lay under the blanket and listened to the movements outside. She seemed to have heard the sound of the car and quickly looked at her clothes. Jiyu Jingze soon walked in and saw Mo Huiling lying on the bed. Half of her body was exposed. Although she was sick, she still had makeup on her face. Her silk pajamas covered half of her body. Her eyes were like silk, and she looked very charming. Jiyu Jingze was stunned. He looked at her lying there and snorted softly. Jingze, you won't be able to see me if you don't come. Jiyu Jingze hurried over. Why are you sick? Knowing that he was coming, Mo Huiling specially got someone to tidy up the room, sprayed fresh perfume, and chose a set of sexy pajamas for herself. Her body, which had just taken a shower, was a little delicate. Looking at him tenderly, she said bitterly, I don't know, I just know. That day when you didn't come, I cried the whole night. Later, I couldn't eat anymore. The family found a lot of doctors, and they all said they didn't know what was wrong. I felt that I was definitely going to die. She wasn't going to die. Lin Che was the one who had almost died. Jiyu Jingze couldn't help but think of Lin Che. He looked at Mo Huiling and said angrily, Huiling, I didn't go to your birthday party that day because something happened and I couldn't leave. Moreover, it was a matter of life and death. I couldn't care about anything else. I shouldn't have come when you suddenly called me here, but you said you were sick. But she wasn't really sick. He felt that Mo Huiling was really immature this time. Mo Huiling saw that Jiyu Jingze was really angry. In the past, he couldn't even bear to say harsh words to her. He didn't think that it had anything to do with Lin Che. Her eyes turned. She felt that the matter he had to deal with must be very serious. That was why he was so angry. She burst into tears and said to him, Jingze, I don't know if you're okay. I'm just too worried about you and I love you too much, so I'm too sad. You can tell me if there's anything, but you don't know that I cried the whole night and kept calling you, but I couldn't get through. Seeing that Mo Huiling was crying and her words were really touching, Jiyu Jingze's heart softened. He lowered his voice and said to her, All right, I'm sorry, Huiling. I was too anxious, so I was too harsh. I didn't handle it well that day and made you worry. Mo Huiling was still crying non-stop. Jiyu Jingze could only pat her shoulder. All right, Huiling, I'm sorry. I mean it. Seeing that he was apologizing sincerely, Mo Huiling thought that he really couldn't bear to see her cry. She bit her lower lip and said pitifully, "It's good that you know." Chapter 31. Jiyu Jingze looked at her with a smile, but he knew that he would get a rash if he touched her, so he had no desire to touch her. However, he still felt uncomfortable all over as if he was about to get a rash. He looked at her with a frown. "Did you do something? Why do you feel uncomfortable?" Mo Hualing froze for a moment and said, Here. I put on some perfume." Jiyu Jingze looked at her with a sigh. "Hualing, if you want me to come to see you, you can just tell me. But how can you say that you're sick?" Jiyu Jingze knew that she was pretending to be sick the moment he came in, so he asked her in a low voice. Mo Hualing was surprised that he had found out. Biting her lip, she said, "I just thought that you didn't want to see me, so Jiyu Jingze looked down and found that he indeed had a rash. Mo Hualing saw that Jiyu Jingze was looking at the room with disdain, so she said immediately, "Let's go out and have a seat." Fortunately, she had chosen a very beautiful pajamas. She stood up and moved herself gracefully. Jiyu Jingze looked down at her and thought that she was wearing a revealing outfit, but he didn't say anything. He smiled at her and went out. Jiyu Jingze knew that Mo Hualing looked sexy in this outfit, but he knew that he would get a rash if he touched her, so he didn't feel anything when he looked at her. Mo Hualing was a bit disappointed that Jiyu Jingze didn't even look at her, but she got used to it. She thought that he was always like this. Ever since he got sick, he had lost interest in women. If he wasn't interested in her, he wouldn't be interested in Lin Che either. She said to Jiyu Jingze, "Have some food with me before you go back." Jiyu Jingze said, "Okay. I came here without eating anything." Hearing Jiyu Jingze's concern when he heard that she was sick, Mo Hualing smiled happily. "Okay. I'll ask someone to make steak. You have to make up for my candlelight dinner at home." However, a servant came over and said, "Miss, there's a power outage at home. We can't make food." Mo Hualing yelled angrily, "How could this happen? Call and ask them to make it for me immediately." The servant said awkwardly, "Miss, the whole half city has a power outage. It said that the circuit was damaged during maintenance, and it's still being repaired." Mo Hualing was really angry. How could she be so unlucky? Finally, Jiyu Jingze came. They had dinner and drank some wine together. Maybe he was too tired and could stay here. Now that he was going home, Mo Hualing felt uncomfortable. She remembered that his wife was still living in that house. Jiyu Jingze said, "Forget it, Huiling don't make things difficult for them." He really hadn't eaten anything and was hungry. After thinking for a moment, he said to the helper, "If there's an alcohol stove, I'll buy some instant noodles." When the helper heard this, her eyes widened in surprise. Mo Hualing too said in surprise, "You want to eat instant noodles?" Jiyu Jingze said, "Yeah, Huiling instant noodles taste good once in a while." Then he said to the servant, "Go and buy some instant noodles." The servant didn't dare to delay and hurried out. Mo Hualing looked at Jiyu Jingze hesitantly. "Why did you suddenly think of eating this?" Jiyu Jingze said, "It's really delicious. You'll know after you try it." Of course, Mo Hualing didn't want to eat that kind of junk food. How could people of their status eat it casually? However, since Jiyu Jingze said so, she couldn't refuse. She watched as the helper quickly brought the instant noodles in and cooked them. After a while, the pungent smell came out. It was so pungent that it covered the expensive perfume on her body. This made her feel even more disgusted. She frowned and watched as the noodles were served. Although they were decorated, they still looked disgusting. Jiyu Jingze saw that they were cooked very much like Lin Che that day and his appetite was whetted. When he sat down, he slowly became angry. Mo Hualing was surprised to see him eating so happily. However, when she looked at it herself, she still found it hard to swallow. For people of their status, instant noodles were not as delicious as spaghetti. Jiyu Jingze ate half a bowl and noticed that Mo Hualing only ate 2 mouthfuls. He raised his head and said, "Why? Is it not delicious?" Mo Hualing couldn't hide the disgust on her face. "Jingze, this is junk food. Don't you want to eat it? It's not good for your health and it's so dirty." Jiyu Jingze's appetite instantly disappeared. He looked at Mo Hualing. Although he knew that she was talking about instant noodles, he felt that she was saying that Lin Che was dirty. Unknowingly, he was talking about instant noodles and Lin Che together. He was a little unhappy, but he didn't show it. He knew that he couldn't force Mo Hualing to like something she didn't like, but he was a little disappointed. He didn't expect her to not like it. He only said, "It's fine if you don't like it. I know it's not very healthy." He could understand that Mo Hualing was like him. She had received a noble and elegant education since young, so she couldn't get used to instant noodles. At this moment, seeing that Mo Hualing was fine, he stood up and said, "I'm full. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first." Lin Che was still in the hospital. He could leave for a while during the day, but she was too restless when she slept at night. He didn't trust others to watch her. If she hurt her wound, the scar would become bigger. For a girl, it was too ugly. Moreover, her skin was so beautiful. It was as white as snow, and he couldn't bear to have any blemishes on it. "Are you so busy?" Mo Hualing looked at Jiyu Jingze reluctantly. Jiyu Jingze looked at her pitiful expression and was a little hesitant. However, when he thought of Lin Che, he was determined to go back. "Hualing, I'll accompany you after you're busy for a while." Seeing that he was so determined, Mo Hualing knew that he couldn't change his mind. She could only pout and send him out. After Jiyu Jingze left, Mo Hualing looked back at the 2 bowls of noodles and said to the servant fiercely, "Who bought the instant noodles? Throw them all away. How could you buy such dirty things at home? It stinks. Clean up the room. I don't want to smell it anymore." Jiyu Jingze said. Lin Che had nothing to do in the hospital. She glanced at the television and watched the news in the entertainment industry. She saw that Jiyu Jingyu was being interviewed. She said that their TV series was still filming. She had applied for a few days' leave because of her injury. Unexpectedly, the crew gave her the leave without any hesitation. Seeing that the TV series was still in full swing, she was very anxious. She wanted to go back and participate in the filming as soon as possible. This was an important opportunity for her, and she wouldn't give it up. Just as she was thinking, Jiyu Jingze came back. Seeing that Lin Che was watching TV, he walked in and said, "Have you had dinner?" Lin Che replied. Seeing that he looked refreshed, she thought that he must have come back from seeing Mo Hualing. However, she didn't say it out loud. "I've eaten and taken my medicine." "That's good. The doctor said that I can be discharged tomorrow and go home to recuperate," she said. Jiyu Jingze frowned. "Really? I think you should observe for a few more days." The doctor said so too, but Lin Che wanted to go back and film as soon as possible. Mrs. Jiyu could only live for a few more years. Who knew when she would get a divorce? She had to stand up on her own. Everyone, please give me some encouragement. Recommendation votes, comments, and even a footprint can make me work hard. Chapter 32. Lin Che said, "It's okay. It's just a small injury." Jiyu Jingze's face darkened. "You almost died. It's not a small injury." Lin Che said indifferently, "I almost died because the artery was moved. I almost died for a moment. As long as it's healed, everything else will be fine. There are no important organs in the thigh anyway." Jiyu Jingze looked at her darkly. After a while, he said unhappily, "Whatever. The body is yours anyway." With that, Jiyu Jingze turned and left. Lin Che blinked. She didn't think there was anything wrong with that. She lay down and continued watching TV. The next day, Lin Che was discharged from the hospital and went home. Jiyu Jingze carried her into the car. Lin Che looked at the wheelchair and found it interesting. It was her first time sitting in such a thing. Seeing that Jiyu Jingze was going to carry her, she quickly said, "Hey, don't move. I'll take a picture." She took a picture of her wheelchair and adjusted it so that she could take a picture of the patient's gown. Jiyu Jingze frowned. "What's there to take a picture of?" Lin Che looked up and shook her head. "You don't understand. You have to pretend to be pitiful when you're in the hospital to win sympathy." Jiyu Jingze was puzzled. What was there to win sympathy? Lin Che tried again and felt that something was wrong. She thought for a moment and asked the butler to move aside. Your car is such a good prop. Why don't I use it? Ji Jingza's eyes flickered slightly. He looked at her suspiciously as she changed her position to take a picture of the back view of the Porsche behind the wheelchair. She used the photo app on her phone to take a picture and said, "This way, it won't be too deliberate and won't be seen by others." Hey, Ji Jingza, you don't know, right? It looks like I'm trying to gain sympathy, but I'm actually showing off that I'm sitting in a Porsche, understand? Ji Jingza stood there speechlessly, looking at this vain woman. Then, she added a layer of filters to the photo to make it look like it was taken on film. Satisfied, she posted it on Weibo. He noticed that she wrote, "I'm finally discharged. The hospital has been torturous these days. Thank you for your efforts." The picture below was of her lower body in a wheelchair, and the obvious Porsche behind it. Ji Jingza shook his head. How boring. What are you posting this for? He asked. Lin Che raised his head and said, "Should I show off on Weibo?" "Oh right, I'll post it on my Moments too." After posting it on WeChat Moments, she asked Ji Jingza to get her into the car. As the car started, she kept checking her Weibo and WeChat Moments. Soon, she saw someone leaving a comment on her WeChat Moments. "Why are you all in wheelchairs? Did you get injured while filming? How pitiful. Rest well." Lin Che said to Ji Jingza, "These people are idiots. They didn't even notice my car. Look at this person and they noticed it." Sure enough, there was a comment below saying, "Ayo, I found a sugar daddy. Isn't that a Porsche?" Lin Che laughed heartily, feeling very pleased with himself. See? Ji Jingza's face darkened. Lin Che said, "Aya, do you think they'll really think that I'm a sugar daddy when they see me flaunting like this?" Ji Jingza's face darkened. He was not an old man. Lin Che pinched his chin and thought for a while before saying, "But doesn't that mean they can see it at home? I have Lin Li's WeChat at home." Sure enough, Lin Li also left a comment after a while. "Is that a Porsche? Lin Che, what the hell are you doing?" Lin Che snorted and ignored her. He said proudly, "I don't know if she can see that this Porsche is worth tens of millions. It's like heaven and earth compared to that lousy BMW of hers." Lin Che went to check Weibo again, but there were no replies. Ji Jingza said, "What's the point of doing this?" Lin Che said, "Of course. I used to watch others show off, but I can finally show off today." Ji Jingza said, "What's there to show off? As far as I know, the Lin family isn't poor. You should have seen a lot of them." Lin Che said, "It's not mine. My dad is very stingy with me. In the past, he drove Lin Li and the others to school in his Benz, and I went to school in the nanny's scooter." Ji Jingza frowned as he watched her casually scroll through Weibo. "Do many people watch this?" he asked. Lin Che shook her head. "No. I'm a certified actor, but I'm not famous. I only have 2,000 followers. Hee hee. But one day, I'll make my followers reach 1 million, 2 million, or even 10 million. Just like Mu Feiran, there will be tens of thousands of comments when I post on Weibo." Ji Jingza looked at her ambitious face and shook his head. "Then I wish you success in advance." "I'll succeed," she said as she raised her fists with determination. Ji Jingza couldn't help but smile. He shook his head and looked ahead. After returning home, Lin Che felt much better. Staying in the hospital and looking at the equipment in the ward wasn't good for her mood, especially when she thought about how much it cost to stay in the VIP ward. Seeing that she seemed to be fine, Ji Jingza went to work the next day. Seeing that Ji Jingza had left, Lin Che insisted on going to the set. Steward who wanted to stop him, but Lin Che said hurriedly, "No, it's been a few days. If I don't go now, the crew might not want me anymore." Steward who had no choice but to secretly ask someone to keep an eye on her. When Lin Che arrived at the set, she was still in a wheelchair. The set was very lively. The crew didn't find it difficult for her to ask for leave, but when they saw her suddenly coming back in a wheelchair, someone came over and asked with concern, "What happened? I saw your Weibo post. Why are you in the hospital?" Lin Che said simply, "I got into a car accident. Luckily, my leg is injured, but I'm fine." Everyone comforted her and asked her to rest more. "You don't have to come when you're in a wheelchair," Lin Che said, No, I can also shoot upper body or sitting scenes. I'll do it if I can, in case the crew can't catch up. Hearing her say this, the assistant director smiled and said, "Okay, you're really dedicated. I'll tell the director to let you participate in the shoot." Lin Che thanked him. Just as she finished speaking, she heard a sinister voice behind her. "You have Weibo. Why haven't we followed each other?" It was Jiyu Jingyu who had appeared behind her. Lin Che was shocked. She looked at Jiyu Jingyu and said, "I followed you, but you didn't follow me." He had so many fans. How could he have noticed her? Jiyu Jingyu asked her what her name was. "I followed you." Lin Che looked at him in surprise. Really? Jiyu Jingyu rarely followed people. There were only about 20 people in his follow list. Lin Che quickly told him her name. He found it and immediately paid attention to it. Chapter 33. Then, Lin Che saw that he was following Jiyu Jingyu on his Weibo. His mood instantly became better. She clicked into Jiyu Jingyu's Weibo and saw that he had 20 million followers. A random post had tens of thousands of comments. He was indeed an A-lister. When she returned to her Weibo, she saw a notification that thousands of people were following her Weibo. She knew that they saw Jiyu Jingyu following her and followed him. He came over and even left a comment under Lin Che's Weibo, saying, "Is it an actor who has been filming with our Jingyu recently? Please help take care of our Jingyu. Our Jingyu has a bad stomach, so you have to watch him eat." Lin Che finally understood what an A-lister meant. Lin Che said, "Wow, I'm benefiting from it. I have almost 10,000 followers." Jiyu Jingyu patted his chest decisively. "Yeah, now you know the benefits of following me. Pay more attention to me in the future." Of course. I've always been paying attention to you." Jiyu Jingyu looked at her. "Forget it. Do you know what I had for breakfast? What time did I go to the bathroom? What car did I drive here?" Lin Che didn't know how to answer. "How would I know? You're purposely making things difficult for me." Jiyu Jingyu looked up and pointed at the crew not far away. "Ask anyone and they'll know." Humph. Lin Che looked awkward. That was too perverted. Jiyu Jingyu reached out and patted her head. "Pay more attention to me in the future. Do you hear me? I'll let you off this time since you're a patient." "Yes." Superstar Jiyu. Lin Che thought that the men of the Jiyu family were all hard to please. Soon, Lin Che finished all the scenes and it was already late at night. When Lin Che said goodbye to the crew and left, he saw Lin Li coming out too. She saw Lin Che and was about to walk over when Jiyu Jingyu walked to Lin Che's wheelchair. Lin Li was stunned. Seeing that Jiyu Jingyu took the initiative to talk to Lin Che, her face immediately turned pale. She turned around and left in anger. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu, who came over again. He didn't notice that when Jiyu Jingyu came over, everyone was looking at him strangely. Jiyu Jingyu looked down at her wheelchair. "You're going back?" "Yeah. I'll drive you." No need. It's on my way. Let's go." As Jiyu Jingyu spoke, he didn't wait for Lin Che to refuse. He raised his head and asked someone to prepare the car. Once in the car, she asked Lin Che, "Where do you live?" Lin Che looked at him speechlessly. "You don't even know where my house is, and you're saying it's on the way?" Jiyu Jingyu was stunned. Lin Che wasn't that stupid sometimes. That's why, when you pay attention to someone, no matter where they live, it's on the way. That's what paying attention to you is, understand? As he spoke, he patted her head again. "Hurry up and tell me where you live." Lin Che had no choice but to tell them the address. Hearing this, Jiyu Jingyu asked curiously, "I didn't expect you to live in such a high-class place." "Cars aren't allowed in there," Lin Che said, "just leave it at the door. I'll get someone to push me in." Jiyu Jingyu said, "All right. I know someone there, so it's not convenient for me to go in. You can go in yourself." Soon, the car arrived at the entrance. He personally pushed her down and escorted her to the door before leaving. Lin Che was a little embarrassed. She waved at him and quickly went in. Jiyu Jingza wasn't home yet. Lin Che sat on the sofa. The family doctor had already changed her dressing and said that because she was young, Her wound was recovering very quickly. Lin Che was feeling proud of herself when she heard the phone ring. It was Yu Minmin who called. Lin Che quickly picked up the phone and said, "Sister Yu, what's up?" Yu Minmin said, "Hey, Lin Che, are you dating Jiyu Jingyu?" "What?" Lin Che felt as if she had heard a fantasy story. "How could that be?" "No." Yu Minmin said, "There was a breaking news report just now. They said that you and Jiyu Jingyu are dating. What's going on?" Lin Che didn't expect it. After putting down the phone, she quickly looked at the news on her phone. Indeed, she was on the news. There was a photo of the two of them chatting and sending her home. The reporter said that Lin Che was a newcomer in the crew and that Jiyu Jingyu had always treated her very well. This was true, but the rest was pure nonsense. The article said that Jiyu Jingyu and she followed each other on Weibo. It seemed that they interacted frequently because Jiyu Jingyu never followed anyone easily. Of all the actors in the crew, he only followed her. He didn't even follow Mu Feiran, who acted as a couple with him. Moreover, the reporter had taken many photos of the two of them chatting and Jiyu Jingyu sending Lin Che home. Lin Che looked at the report, which was so convincing that he was dumbfounded. These reporters were too good at reading pictures. They could come up with so many stories to write about just a few pictures. Although she knew that it was worth a lot of money to write an article about Jiyu Jingyu, it was too irresponsible of her to do so. Lin Che hurried to the office. As soon as she entered the wheelchair, she saw Yu Minmin coming out. "You're going to be famous this time. A lot of reporters came to ask about you." Lin Che said with a sad face, "Really? I just saw that I was scolded badly on Weibo." Many fans came to her Weibo crying and screaming. The number of fans on Weibo increased a lot overnight, but they were all anti-fans. Recently, there were tens of thousands of comments scolding her on Weibo, saying that she was using Jiyu Jingyu to create hype. And the depressing thing was that Lin Che had always been in a passive position. Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che for a while and asked, "If you're really in a relationship with Jiyu Jingyu, you can tell us. The company didn't say that you're not allowed to be in a relationship." Lin Che hurriedly begged, "Sister Yu, please let me go. I really didn't. We're really close, but we're just talking about filming. He sent me home because my legs are not good tonight. We just followed each other on Weibo today, and he happened to see my Weibo post, so he followed me because he was embarrassed." Yu Minmin heard it and felt that there was nothing untrustworthy about it. But she thought for a while and looked at Lin Che. Then, "Jiyu Jingyu isn't chasing after you, right?" "What?" Lin Che was stunned. "Sister Yu, don't joke with me, okay? How is that possible?" Yu Minmin rolled her eyes and said to Lin Che, "You don't know this, but Jiyu Jingyu rarely has a good relationship with people in the crew, let alone women." "Really? But I think he's quite a good person and he's very upright. We're really just talking about filming. Sometimes we talk about other things, but I definitely don't have any improper thoughts about him." She didn't want to say that she was already a married woman. Who would she have improper thoughts about? Especially when Jiyu Jingyu was her brother-in-law. Chapter 34. Yu Minmin said, "All right then. Anyway, it's already like this. The company will think of a way to deal with it for you. But you have to be careful and don't go out too often." Lin Che sighed and said, "Everything was fine, but I ended up in this." Yu Minmin smiled and said, "People can't even beg for it. You're already in the headlines because of your scandal with Jiyu Jingyu. Isn't it great that you're famous before the show? Sister Yu, you didn't see those people who scolded me." She looked at her comments. Those people saw her selfie and said that it was ugly. They said that she had gone through too much plastic surgery and wasn't worthy of their Jiyu Jingyu. It was so infuriating. Sister Yu said, "Perhaps this is a publicity stunt created by your TV series production team. After your TV series started filming, there would be waves of promotions to build up momentum for the future. Perhaps they were the ones who created this." Lin Che was speechless and said, "Why didn't they tell me in advance?" Sister Yu replied, "Of course they won't. Besides, even if you ask them, they won't admit to it. The relationship between the production team and our company has always been one of mutual benefit. Why would they talk about morality with you?" Even if I tell you, what if you don't cooperate? Alright, that's all for now. Go back and rest. Hearing this, Lin Che had no choice but to agree. He was ready to go back and adapt to the situation. When she got home, she didn't work for a few days. Once she got busy, she was so tired that she collapsed on the bed and didn't want to move. When Jiyu Jingze came back, he saw Lin Che lying on the bed without a care in the world. Lin Che, why did you go to film? You haven't recovered yet. When Jiyu Jingze came back, housekeeper who reported that Madam insisted on filming. He had no choice but to secretly send people to follow Madam just in case. But they were servants and couldn't stop her. Jiyu Jingze went straight to the room to look for her. He saw her lying on the bed with her limbs spread out. One side of her DI pants was exposed. It was pink and had a lace edge. Jiyu Jingze's throat moved. He looked at her and frowned. Hey, can you be more careful while lying down? Lin Che said lazily, why should I be? It's tiring to watch my image in my own home. Jiyu Jingze looked around, picked up a blanket from the side, and directly put it on her body, covering her exposed body. Lin Che twisted her waist. What are you doing? It's so hot. Jiyu Jingze turned his head. If you want to seduce me, you should at least change into a pair of underwear. Lin Che was stunned. He lowered his head and saw that he was wearing a pair of casual home shorts. They were a little loose, and his DI pants were exposed. Blushing slightly, she quickly pulled up her pants and looked up, saying, what's wrong? It's not like I haven't seen it before. Jiyu Jingze smiled and moved closer to Lin Che. He looked at Lin Che's fair and rosy face and said, so what you're saying is that after seeing it, I can look at it whenever I want in the future. I didn't mean it that way. Lin Che hurriedly took a step back. Jiyu Jingze laughed even harder. Seeing her like this, he couldn't help but take another look at her. Seeing that the housekeeper seemed to have something to say at the door, he went out. Qin Hao was waiting at the door of the study. Jiyu Jingze walked over. What's up? Qin Hao looked embarrassed. He walked over hesitantly and carefully looked at Jiyu Jingze's expressionless face. Sir, there's a scandal about Madam. Jiyu Jingze paused and looked at Qin Hao. What scandal? As he spoke, he took the news and read it. However, she saw that it was reporting on Jiyu Jingyu's suspicious relationship. It described the love story between him and the newcomer Lin Che, who was in the same caste as him. It was very touching. Jiyu Jingze didn't usually pay attention to entertainment news, so he just saw it. However, Jiyu Jingyu and his wife, Qin Hao said, didn't third young master and madam shoot a fantasy TV series together? That's probably how they met. Jiyu Jingze lowered his head and said, put it down and go. Qin Hao hurriedly left the room. After resting, Lin Che curled up on the sofa in the living room and watched TV. She changed the channel and happened to see the news about her and Jiyu Jingyu. It said that Jiyu Jingyu was shooting a fantasy TV series and had attracted a lot of attention. However, what was surprising was that he didn't have sex with Mu Feiran, the female lead. Instead, he was rumored to be with a newcomer. However, the reporter hadn't received a response from Jiyu Jingyu's company, so they weren't sure if it was true or not. Lin Che covered her forehead. What was the meaning of this? Was it degrading to be rumored with her? She was so angry that she changed the channel. Then, she heard a gloomy voice behind her. Why did you change the channel when you saw me? Jiyu Jingze, who was standing behind them, glanced at Lin Che and walked over. Lin Che said quickly, did you see this? Jiyu Jingze looked gloomy. He looked at Lin Che deeply and sat down casually. He opened the newspaper and glanced at it. Yeah, what do you want to say? Lin Che quickly explained, I didn't do it on purpose. Some reporter made it up. It's impossible. I haven't known Jiyu Jingyu for long and I'm not familiar with him. Jiyu Jingze looked at her. Just a scandal? Lin Che didn't know what he meant, but she nodded quickly. She felt that Jiyu Jingze must be unhappy. Putting everything else aside, it was impossible for him to be happy about a scandal with Jiyu Jingyu. I'm sorry, Jiyu Jingze. I didn't do it on purpose. I know we're married. Although it's a contract marriage, We agreed to be responsible for each other. Your family might think too much if they saw this. I'm afraid you'll have to explain to them that it's just a publicity stunt. It has nothing to do with us. We don't even know how it got out." Gu Jingze's face darkened. His unfathomable eyes hid his expression, making it even more difficult to see through him. When Lin Che saw this, he hurriedly said, all right, I'll explain it to your family. I won't trouble you, and I didn't do it on purpose. I'll be more careful next time and try not to cause trouble for you as much as possible. The company is already handling this matter, and I believe that Gu Jingyu doesn't like scandals either, so he'll definitely try his best to handle it. You don't have to worry, no one will mention it again soon. Okay, I'm not angry. Isn't the entertainment industry like this? Gu Jingze stood up from the chair. However, he looked at her with a piercing gaze. It was deep and cold like an icicle. Then, he quickly walked upstairs without looking back. Wasn't he not angry? Lin Che sat there, feeling a little messy in the wind. Chapter 35. The doctor soon came to change Lin Che's dressing. After changing the dressing, Lin Che was supposed to go back to rest. However, when he entered the room, he didn't see Gu Jingze. She quickly stopped a servant and asked, "Is your master busy?" The servant said, "Madam, sir has not come out of his study." Lin Che thought for a moment, then sat in his wheelchair and went to the study. "Gu Jingze." She knocked on the door and said, "Gu Jingze, what's wrong? Are you angry?" However, there was no movement inside. Lin Che said, "Didn't I say that I won't do it again? And I really didn't do it on my own accord. I'm also very curious as to how it became like this. What else do you want me to do?" At this moment, the door opened. Gu Jingze looked at her. "Who told you that I'm angry?" However, the door was still closed with a whoosh. Lin Che was once again shut outside the door. Speechless, he said, "You're still saying you're not angry, what a hypocrite." She had no choice but to push the wheelchair out. At this moment, he saw someone coming in from outside. It was a man in his 30s, dressed in a blue suit. She had never seen him before, so she looked a little confused. When the man saw her, he immediately smiled and walked over. "Mrs. Gu, we finally meet." "Hello." Lin Che was stunned. He pointed at himself and said, "You know me?" He had a smile on his face, and he looked very reliable and approachable. "Mrs. Gu, I'm Mr. Gu's doctor. My name is Chen Yusheng. You can call me Dr. Chen. I believe Mr. Gu has mentioned me to you before." "I didn't mention it," Lin Che said. Chen Yucheng continued to smile and said, "All right, hey, Mr. Gu is such a person. He's tough on the outside but soft on the inside. Actually, I'm important to him too." Lin Che didn't notice anything at all. She looked at Chen Yucheng sympathetically and comforted him. "Yes, Gu Jingze is a little strange, but you'll get used to it." Chen Yucheng was still smiling. He looked very good-looking and sunny. "But I've heard of you for a long time. It's my honor to meet Mrs. Gu today. Oh, by the way, what's wrong with Mr. Gu? Why aren't you outside?" Lin Che said speechlessly, "He can't be. He seems to be angry." "Oh, if that's the case, then what exactly happened? Can you tell me first?" Lin Che was still hesitant. As if sensing her dilemma, Chen Yucheng said, "Mrs. Gu, don't worry. I'll know everything about Mr. Gu. You also know that he has been sick for many years. I've been tracking and researching his illness, so Mr. Gu usually tells me everything, no matter how big or small. Since he knew about his illness, he should be someone close to and trusted by Gu Jingze." Lin Che told him what had happened. After hearing this, Chen Yucheng wanted to laugh. He looked up as if he had thought of something. Lin Che said awkwardly, "Tell me, what should we do now? I'm thinking that he's so angry because he regrets marrying me. If it was Miss Mo, there wouldn't be so much trouble. If Miss Mo was with him, she would be very nice, very quiet, and wouldn't cause so much trouble. In comparison, he must miss Miss Mo more now. So when he sees me, he must be wondering why he married a troublemaker like me." Chen Yucheng chuckled and said, "That's what you told him?" Lin Che looked at Chen Yucheng. What else could I have said? Chen Yuqing shook his head speechlessly. I think it's normal for him to be angry. Lin Che said worriedly, if he's usually angry, how can he calm down? Chen Yuqing said, well, the only people who usually make him angry are the employees. I only know that if he fires someone, he should be able to calm down. Fire her? Wouldn't that mean a divorce? But I don't think we can get a divorce for the time being. Lin Che said, but this is indeed a little difficult for him. He has to explain to the Jiyu family, and the rumored partner is his brother. But I can't do anything about it. I said that if I explain it, it won't affect him, and the Jiyu family won't find out about our contract marriage. What else can I do? Chen Yuqing looked at her helplessly. Did you tell him the same thing just now? Yes, I was very sincere just now. Chen Yuqing looked at her, looking as if he had a long way to go. I think he's already treating you well by not strangling you to death. It wasn't that serious. Chen Yuqing said, Mrs. Jiyu, you continue to think of a solution here. I'll go and see how your husband is doing. Oh. Lin Che watched him go in, dazed. After an unknown period of time, Lin Che had already fallen asleep, but Jiyu Jingze was still awake. Lin Che was a little worried. She got up, moved to the wheelchair, and went to the study again. She knocked on the door and said, Jiyu Jingze, are you inside? Jiyu Jingze didn't make a sound. Lin Che thought about it gloomily. She lifted up her leg and looked at it. An idea came to her mind. Jiyu Jingze. My leg hurts. Where's the doctor? The door opened with a whoosh. Jiyu Jingze squinted his spectral eye. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his cold eyes made him look dangerous. But when he looked at Lin Che, he sized her up and asked, your leg hurts? Lin Che looked at him and quickly covered her thigh. Yeah, it suddenly hurts. I don't know what to do. Jiyu Jingze quickly squatted down and looked at her. She was wearing shorts, and the wound was still covered with gauze. She looked fine. He quickly reached out and pressed on it. Does it hurt here? Yes. It hurts. Jiyu Jingze looked up and seemed to sense that something was wrong. He squinted and said, does it really hurt? Of course. Don't you believe me? Lin Che quickly put on an act. She frowned and bit her lip. Ouch, it really hurts. Of course, Jiyu Jingze could tell that she was exaggerating and acting. But looking at the scar, he actually felt that he should go to the hospital for a checkup. What if it really hurt? He didn't want to take the risk. So he immediately stood up and said, wait. I'll make the arrangements. Let's go to the hospital. Ah! Lin Che saw that she was overacting. She wanted to stop him, but Jiyu Jingze had already gone in and picked up his phone. He quickly dialed a number and gave some instructions. When he came out, he said, let's go. We'll wait outside. He pushed Lin Che's wheelchair out. Soon, they were outside. Lin Che felt a gust of wind. Then, she saw a helicopter descend from the sky. It waved its huge propellers and slowly landed in the huge courtyard. Jiyu Jingze saw that she was cold. He took off his shirt and covered her body with it. Then, he carried her up from the wheelchair. Chapter 36. Lin Che couldn't think of anything else. She only realized it when she got into the helicopter. How can we get there like this? Lin Che was stunned. She couldn't help but ask as she looked at the huge machine. Jiyu Jingze said, it's too far. It's faster. Lin Che looked at him. Actually, it's not that urgent. Jiyu Jingze looked at her calmly. But you have to know that we have something to do tomorrow morning. If we drive like this, it'll take an hour to get there and another hour to get back. It'll be daybreak by the time we get home. The helicopter will be here in 10 minutes. Get ready. Okay. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze and thought to herself that this was how a tycoon handled things. She had to get used to it. As expected, they landed on the top floor of the hospital in 10 minutes. Jiyu Jingze didn't let her move and carried her down first. He carried her all the way inside before putting her down. When the doctor examined her, Lin Che felt a little guilty. The doctor asked, how does it hurt? It's just A little pain. She braced herself and didn't dare to look at Ji Jing's eyes. The doctor took a look and said, "Mrs. Ji, your wound isn't inflamed and there aren't any other symptoms. The pain might just be a psychological effect. Don't be too stressed out. If you think about something else, you might not feel the pain." The doctor had no choice but to make a diagnosis like this. Lin Che nodded vigorously. "I see." Ji Jingze looked at her from the side. Lin Che gave a fawning smile. Ji Jingze's dark eyes moved and he glared at her. However, he still said to the doctor, "Just in case, we'll stay here for the night." Lin Che could only agree. The room was the same as the previous intensive care unit. Ji Jingze had already arranged it at the door. As he had expected, it was already midnight by the time they arrived in the helicopter. Lin Che sat there guiltily. He saw that Ji Jingze's thin lips were tightly pressed into a line, and the line of his jaw was also tightened. He looked as cold as ice, making it hard for people to approach him. She couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Seeing him turn around and look at her coldly, she quickly gave him a flattering smile. "You've worked hard. Go to sleep." Ji Jingze glared at her and sat down by the side. Lin Che hurriedly said, "Ji Jingze, come over. I want to talk to you." Ji Jingze snorted and sat there without moving. Lin Che steeled his heart and got off the bed. But as soon as his heels touched the ground, his thighs began to hurt. She let out a hiss and clutched her thigh, almost falling down. Ji Jingze's eyes darkened. He couldn't care less about anything else. He hurriedly walked over, put his hands under her armpits, and hugged her. "Lin Che, why did you move?" Ji Jingze was furious. His heart almost jumped out of his chest because of what she had just done. Lin Che was really in pain. He frowned and faced the light, his face slightly wrinkled. Ji Jingze steadied her and turned his head. His lips brushed against her earlobe. Her soft earlobes still had some fine hair. Under the illumination of the light, the hair glowed and looked very cute. His mind was in a mess. He frowned and wanted to let go of this damned woman. But just as he was about to let go, Lin Che grabbed his arm. "Ji Jingze, don't be angry," she said softly, looking at him with her clear eyes. Her expression was exceptionally pitiful. Ji Jingze's gaze kept falling on her ear. Looking at that smooth little ear, he had an inexplicable crazy urge to go up and nip it. Had his illness developed to the point of becoming a pervert? Why did he feel hot all over looking at a little ear? He felt her hand on his arm, and the places she touched became even hotter, making him want to fling her hand away in annoyance. "Let go of me, Lin Che." His face darkened, and Lin Che saw that he was even more anxious. "Don't be angry, Ji Jingze. Hubby, don't be angry. When a husband and wife quarrel, shouldn't they sleep together? Don't be angry anymore." Lin Che really did everything he could to soften this awkward man. However, Ji Jingze's face did not get better. Instead, it turned from gloomy to red. He looked very angry, and Lin Che was so scared that her voice became even softer. Hubby, don't be angry. Seeing that I'm so pitiful and can't get out of bed, she hugged one of his arms with both hands like a child. She pouted and her eyes looked pitiful as she swayed his arm. Ji Jingze listened to her softer voice and looked down at her swaying arm. In fact, at this moment, if he grabbed her hands and pushed her directly onto the bed, she would fall under him. Such an impulse surged in his heart, but he strongly suppressed it. But, this damned woman, could she behave herself for a while? She didn't swing around like that. He was dizzy. "Lin Che, I said let go of me, don't you understand?" Ji Jingze growled in a gloomy voice. Lin Che looked at him. Was he really angry? She immediately let go of her hands, but she lost her balance and fell backward. Ji Jingze saw that and reached out to hold her waist. But because of her downward pull, he fell in her direction and fell down with Lin Che. Lin Che's eyes widened. She felt his soft thin lips smashing heavily on her mouth. And that magnified handsome face with a slight blush was directly reflected in front of her eyes. Lin Che felt a pain in her chest. She looked down and saw that his chest was pressed against hers. Her face instantly turned bright red. This time, Jiyu Jingze also clearly felt the pain in his chest. But looking at Lin Che, he immediately dodged at lightning speed, rolled to the side, and quickly left her body. Lin Che's heart was still thumping non-stop because of his sudden approach. What the fuck? Was she crazy? Just now, she almost had an impulse to kiss him. Her mouth almost moved closer to his. Was it because she had been with him for too long that she couldn't resist the temptation of his beauty? Indeed, Jiyu Jingze was very handsome and sexy. Even his movements just now were beautiful, and the curve of his lips was very alluring. But his heart belonged to someone else. Lin Che was definitely not someone who would steal someone else's love. Moreover, Jiyu Jingze's expression just now was clearly one of disgust. She suddenly covered her mouth and remembered that he was allergic to women. No wonder he kept trying to push her away. Lin Che quickly looked up. "Oh, Jiyu Jingze, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it just now. I forgot that you were sick, so I didn't let go." Jiyu Jingze's expression darkened. He raised his handsome face slightly and said, "It's okay to touch occasionally." "Is that so?" "Yeah, it's just." He looked at her chest and couldn't help but take another look. She immediately noticed his gaze and lowered her head together with him. Jiyu Jingze turned his slightly red face away to hide his gaze. He said mildly, "It's just that the shape of your chest is not bad. It's full of boobs. I don't think it's faked." He deliberately said nonchalantly, "Damn it." Chapter 37. Of course, it's all natural. It's in the shape of a honey peach. It's just the right size and softness. Why would I do it? Also, it's too obvious now. If I lie down, I'll be exposed immediately. Let me tell you, it's said that after I lie down, my breasts won't flatten out because they're arched when I do it. Jiyu Jingze couldn't help but look at her chest. He averted his gaze unnaturally and said, "You really know a lot." "Of course," Lin Che said. "I'm very knowledgeable." As he spoke, Lin Che touched his foot unnaturally. Jiyu Jingze thought of the pain in her leg just now and was worried that she might have touched it, so he quickly said, "All right, don't move around. Let me take a look at your leg." She sat on the bed. He half squatted down and opened her pants. He looked at her wound. Afraid that she might be in pain, he touched it carefully. "How is it?" Lin Che felt that it was fine. He didn't feel anything. "It should be fine. It's just that my leg hurts a little when it lands on the ground." Jiyu Jingze said, "Behave yourself then." Lin Che thought, wasn't he anxious just now? It's his fault for suddenly ignoring me. Jiyu Jingze raised his head to look at her, but his eyes were still fixed on her breasts. He hadn't noticed it before, but now he suddenly felt that her breasts were really beautiful from this angle. The two bulges were evenly arranged, and they looked round and cute. They were neither too big nor too small, and they seemed to be just big enough to be held with one hand. He remembered what she said about the shape of a honey peach. It seemed to be a little like that. He was a little curious. If he really touched it, would it be as soft as she said? His lower abdomen stiffened. Suddenly, he felt that he could feel it again. He stood up calmly and turned his head with a straight face, wondering what was wrong with him. Noticing that his expression had darkened again, Lin Che thought that he was having another relapse. She looked at him worriedly and asked nervously, "What's wrong, Jiyu Jingze? Do you feel anything wrong? Should I call the doctor? If I had known, I wouldn't have asked you to touch me." This stupid woman. Did she think that he had been avoiding her because of his illness? However, his allergy was secondary now. Something else was more important. It was an unexpected illness that made him very irritated. He felt that he really needed to ask Chen Yuqing if his original disease had mutated and there were complications. Otherwise, how could he be like this? He couldn't be bothered with this stupid woman. He turned around and said, "Okay, I'm fine now. Go to sleep." Lin Che said, "Then can you still sleep in the same bed with me tonight? Or are you going out to sleep?" Looking at the bed, he felt a little reluctant to leave. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "Look at the time. Where are you going to sleep? Let's just stay here for a few hours." Lin Che nodded and made way for him. She didn't care, as long as he didn't feel uncomfortable in the same bed with her. At this time, she had to take care of the patient's feelings. Although she seemed to be the one who came to the hospital. Lin Che lay down and placed the pillow in the middle of the bed. Ji Jingze looked at it and thought that it didn't matter whether he placed the pillow or not, but he didn't say it out loud. He found that there was a trace of anticipation in his heart. If she ran around after falling asleep, would she end up lying on top of him? Then, he would be able to feel the peach-shaped breasts that she had mentioned. What did they feel like? The two of them lay on the bed together. The lights were on, and she was playing with her phone. Her phone rang, and she saw that there was a friend request on WeChat. She opened it and saw that it was Ji Jingyu. She couldn't help but be a little stunned, but she quickly accepted it. Once she accepted, he immediately sent her a WeChat message and asked, "You're not asleep yet?" Lin Che quickly asked, "Superstar Ji, why did you add me?" Lin Che thought that perhaps it was to talk about the scandal. Thus, he quickly asked, "Are you going to deal with the scandal?" He remembered that Ji Jingyu rarely had such scandals. Some people said that Ji Jingyu hated scandals, so whenever there was a scandal, he would start suppressing it. Ji Jingyu immediately replied, "Why should I deal with the scandal?" Lin Che was a little stunned. "Of course. Didn't you see how ridiculous their lies were?" "I saw it." "Then why don't you deal with it?" "What's the use of dealing with it? Just ignore it. It'll be over in a few days." This was a little different from Ji Jingyu's usual style. But they really are ridiculous, and they exaggerate it so much. "It's not good to spread it around," Lin Che said quickly. Ji Jingyu replied, "I don't care." "Why do you care?" Depressed, Lin Che really wanted to scold someone. He didn't care because he wasn't the one being scolded. But she was scolded badly, and now she was so scared that she didn't dare to open Weibo. The moment she opened it, she would be scolded like a tidal wave, each more unpleasant than the last. "No, Superstar Ji Jingyu, you have to save me. If you don't deal with it, this matter will definitely continue to worsen," Lin Che said quickly. Ji Jingyu still replied in a tone, "How will it worsen? I think it's pretty good." "Good my ass, I'm being scolded badly. You'll stop after a few days?" "No." Gradually, Lin Che couldn't help but talk to him very casually. "Then I'll post on Weibo tomorrow and tell you to stop scolding her, and if there's anything, come at me." Lin Che looked at his reply and almost fainted. "Then they'll scold me even harder." "Then what do you want me to do?" "Just say that we're just friends from the same production team and we've only known each other for a few days. They're just looking at pictures and talking, and what they're saying is fake." This was the truth. Unexpectedly, Ji Jingyu said, "Then what if we really get together in the future and dig out these reports? Wouldn't that be slapping my own face? Who would really want to get together with him?" "Of course we won't be together." "Don't worry, you won't get slapped in the face," Lin Che said quickly. Ji Jingyu immediately sent a crying emoji. "You're hurting me by doing this. So what if I'm hurting you? Anyway, you have to deal with it properly. Seriously, how do you know if you won't regret being so heartless to me in the future? Who knows if you'll suddenly fall in love with me and want to marry me no matter what?" "Scram, that's impossible." "Why is it impossible? Everything is possible." Lin Che looked at his reply speechlessly. He knew that he was purposely teasing her, and he couldn't deal with it properly. So he directly sent a message to him, "Go to hell, don't disturb my sleep." Then he ignored him. Chapter 38. Lin Che was upset. He didn't know how to go out the next day. He glanced at his Weibo and saw that he had gained tens of thousands of fans. But he knew without thinking that they were probably anti-fans. Lin Che could only sigh and put down the phone. Ji Jingze frowned. "Don't play with your phone when you're sleeping." Lin Che said, "I'll just take a look and then go to sleep." He lay down on his side. Ji Jingze had already closed his eyes. Even when Ji Jingze was lying down, he was still upright. Lin Che felt as if he wouldn't move at all for the whole night. Lin Che looked at him. The faint light shone on his cheeks. The blanket only covered half of his body. His well-built body was perfectly divided into two halves, one half bright and one half dark. The half bright side was tanned and sexy, while the half-dark side was even more tempting than the half-bright side. It was as if it was plated with a layer of magnificent dark light, exuding a luxurious temptation. When he closed his eyes, his eyelashes looked even longer and lovable. His perfect lips were slightly curled up, and the line of his chin perfectly outlined his handsome face. Below, his Adam's apple moved slightly. Below, the position of his collarbone was very clear. Even though he was lying like this, the shape of his collarbone could be clearly seen. And further down, Lin Che quickly turned his head. Damn it. She felt as if she had been mesmerized by his beauty. Looking at him like this, he was really irredeemably sexy. And she suddenly remembered that this was her husband. Although it was only in name, he was indeed her husband. The law recognized him. But it was a pity that he had another woman in his heart. She sighed and turned over to lie down. She was upset and didn't sleep well. She slept half the night, but at least she didn't move again. Jiyu Jingze was surprised. He had thought that she would still toss and turn and attack every part of his body. But after waiting for a long time, she didn't move at all. He was prepared to be harassed by her, so he couldn't sleep for a long time. But she didn't come. Jiyu Jingze didn't know how he fell asleep. He just felt a little disappointed when he fell asleep. The next day, they went home. Jiyu Jingze said, "We wanted to invite you back for dinner." Huh? Lin Che looked at him in surprise. Jiyu Jingze said unhurriedly, "But I've already refused." Oh. She was scared. "Yeah, I'll be asked about the scandal if I go back now. I don't know what to say." Jiyu Jingze looked at her, his expression as dark as ink. He glanced at her and pursed his lips before turning back. After getting out of the car, Jiyu Jingze strode inside. Lin Che had to get into the wheelchair. A servant came to push her. Lin Che looked up and said, "Your husband is really troublesome." The servant laughed dryly, not knowing what to say. Lin Che packed up and hurried to the company. Seeing Yu Minmin, she hurriedly said, "How was it, Sister Yu? Have you settled it?" As soon as Yu Minmin saw Lin Che, she walked over and said, "Yeah, you don't have to be so anxious. I saw that the news has been blocked. For the time being, news about you and Jiyu Jingyu are not allowed to be published in the newspapers." Lin Che said in surprise, "It can't be." Yu Minmin said, "It seems that Jiyu Jingyu's side has taken action. Anyway, our company doesn't have that much power or connections. It's impossible for them to block the news. They must have done it." Lin Che said curiously, "But yesterday, Jiyu Jingyu said not to deal with it." Yu Minmin immediately looked at Lin Che in surprise. "When did you say that?" Lin Che replied, "I told you on WeChat last night. Aya, you and Jiyu Jingyu actually keep in touch in private." Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che with interest. Lin Che hurriedly said, "No way. He just added me on WeChat. Maybe it's to deal with the scandal." Yu Minmin looked at her secretively and said with a smile, "You really underestimate Jiyu Jingyu. He doesn't need to deal with these things himself. He can just leave it to his staff." "Oh, really?" Lin Che wasn't like Yu Minmin, who had a thorough understanding of the big shots in the entertainment industry. Yu Minmin said, "Jiyu Jingyu has always been difficult to get along with. Many people think that he's too cold and unapproachable. Also, he definitely won't interact with newcomers." Why is he different from the Jiyu Jingyu I know?" Lin Che said, "I think he's quite nice. He's funny, but a little cheap." Yu Minmin said, "Really? Then, enjoy it." After saying that, she patted Lin Che's arm deeply. Lin Che shrugged speechlessly. He thought that it was probably because they hadn't interacted with him that they had misunderstood him. After all, Yu Minmin had never interacted with Jiyu Jingyu before. She had only asked around and heard that the rumors were getting more and more ridiculous. In short, Lin Che felt that this incident was probably caused by Jiyu Jingyu's team. After all, sooner or later, his team wouldn't be able to stand it. Thus, after some thought, Lin Che sent him a WeChat message and said, "I saw that you've dealt with it. I'm sorry about the scandal and thank you for being willing to deal with it." Unexpectedly, Jiyu Jingyu, who seemed to be around all the time, had already replied. Lin Che saw that his reply was, "Dealt with what?" Lin Che said, "Wasn't it your team that dealt with the scandal?" Of course not. Aya, what a pity. I wanted to see it for a few more days. That's it. Lin Che really wanted to vomit blood. Go to hell. Thanks for taking it back. So heartless. After speaking to Jiyu Jingyu, Lin Che snorted and put down his phone. However, he thought curiously, what's going on? As for Jiyu Jingzi, Qin Hao lowered his head and said to Jiyu Jingzi, who was sitting in the office chair, Sir, the matter has been dealt with. The news has been deleted and there won't be any more news about Third Young Master in the near future. Jiyu Jingzi nodded. Qin Hao said, should we inform Third Young Master then? Up until now, Third Young Master still didn't know Lin Che's identity, which was why he made such a blunder. Jiyu Jingzi thought for a moment. Forget it. If he knows, who knows what kind of trouble he'll cause. If he doesn't know, he'll probably calm down a little. Jiyu Jingyu was the most rebellious of the three brothers. He would do whatever the others were unhappy about. Qin Hao said, Sir, if there's anything you need, please let me know. Wait a minute, Jiyu Jingzi said, block all news about Jiyu Jingyu for 2 months. Make him behave. However, even so, Jiyu Jingzi felt uncomfortable letting him off the hook without punishing him. When Qin Hao heard this, he could only say, yes, sir. After Qin Hao left, Jiyu Jingzi lowered his head and looked at the news article. In the article, Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che were in the same frame, talking and laughing together. It was very eye-catching. It made people feel annoyed. He threw the news article to the back and frowned. What kind of taste did these people have? Did they look like they were together? Chapter 39. Over the next 2 days, the news gradually died down, but the lingering warmth was still there. Lin Che's Weibo was still filled to the brim, but the number of fans kept increasing. It could be said that he had not been scolded for nothing. For the first time in the industry, he had gained some fame and a sense of existence. Just then, the auntie suddenly called Lin Che and said, your sister and Qin Qing's engagement party. Can you spare some time this weekend? Lin Che's heart sank. Are they going to be officially engaged? Lin Che's hand that was holding the phone trembled slightly, but he still pretended to be calm and said to Han Kaiying on the phone, why would I go? Is auntie inviting me? Of course, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go back and see her family's faces, and she didn't want to see that Qin Qing was finally going to marry someone else. Han Kaiying snorted and said, why? You don't dare to come? Could it be that you really have feelings for Qin Qing? All the more reason for you to come. Take a look and give up on this idea. Auntie, I can't help it if you insist. Oh, did I say that, or did you really think that? These days, you've been working hard to win Lin Li's favor. You even tried to get close to Jiyu Jingyu to get on the headlines. Unfortunately, Jiyu Jingyu ignored you and suppressed the news within 2 days. This time, Lin Li's wedding will be on the headlines for sure. Now that you finally have a chance to show your face, why don't you come and get on the headlines? Listening to Han Kaiying's words, Lin Che thought to himself, her imagination is really rich. Although she didn't know if it was Jiyu Jingyu who suppressed the news, she was certain that Jiyu Jingyu wasn't like what she said. At last, Han Kaiying said, anyway, I won't come to see you. If you really don't want to see Qin Qing marry Lin Li, then don't come. As Lin Che listened to her hang up the phone, he couldn't help but feel cold for a long time. When Jiyu Jingzi came in and saw Lin Che in a daze, he walked over and said, what's wrong? Does it hurt anywhere? Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingzi and said, actually, I sympathize with Miss Mo. Jiyu Jingzi looked at Lin Che with sparkling eyes. He didn't know why she suddenly mentioned Mo Hualing. What happened to her? Lin Che hugged a pillow and sat there. She must be very sad to see me with you. Seeing the person she loves with someone else, yet she can't do anything about it. She has to act like she doesn't care. But in reality, she might even wake up in the middle of the night crying in her blankets, feeling sad, while you're by another woman's side. As Lin Che spoke, he lowered his eyes. His long eyelashes curled up like a fragrant fan, lightly covering his bright eyes. His porcelain white face was filled with bitterness. Sorrow was like a gurgling stream, gently drowning his originally clear and bright eyes. She smiled. Although her eyebrows were curved, it made people feel pity for her. She seemed to be talking about Mo Hualing, but she herself was sad. Jiyu Jingze looked into her eyes and felt a little sour in his heart. He felt that she wasn't talking about Mo Hualing, but him. Jiyu Jingze frowned and said, "You don't have to worry about me," and Huiling Lin Che snorted and looked at Jiyu Jingze. "Men are indeed not good." Humph. Jiyu Jingze glared at her, got up, and walked out. What a heartless woman. However, he still frowned. He knew that there was something wrong with her, and he wanted to know what was wrong with her. In the study, he looked at Qin Hao. "How's the investigation going?" Qin Hao said, "Sir, although I don't know if it's true, it seems that the eldest daughter of the Lin family, Lin Li, got engaged to Qin Qing, the young master of the Qin family, this weekend." Qin Qing? The man that she had always liked. Jiyu Jingze frowned deeply. The gloomy expression on his face was unfathomable. Indeed, she wasn't talking about Huiling and him just now. She was talking about that man. Was she feeling sad for that man? Jiyu Jingze didn't know why, but he felt even more uncomfortable. She was in bed every day and always slept earlier than him. How could she have the cheek to say that she cried under the blanket in her dreams at night? He didn't know why, but he felt even more irritated. He waved his hand and asked Qin Hao to leave. Qin Hao said, "Sir," then, "Scram." Qin Hao was startled. He hurriedly crawled away. Although Lin Che didn't want to go, he was still angry at the thought of it, especially when he thought of Han Kaing's provocation. Although he knew that she did it on purpose, Lin Che still couldn't help but fall for it. So, Lin Che decided to go and have a look. He asked the company to borrow a gown for him. When Yu Minmin heard that it was for Lin Li's wedding, he generously asked for a good one. After all, Lin Li was a star, and her marriage with Qin Qing was talked about by many people. There would probably be a lot of media there. Yu Minmin was happy to take the opportunity to get some exposure. On the day of the engagement, the sky was clear. However, Lin Che's mood was as low as the bottom of the valley. She arrived at the engagement venue. When she got out of the car, she saw a few big words glowing at the entrance of the splendid hotel: Lin Li and Qin Qing, 100 years of love. 100 years of love. She swallowed her bitterness and told herself not to look at him and not to think about him. After today, he would no longer be the young man she dreamed of when she was young. He would be someone else's fiancé. She got out of the car and sat in a wheelchair. Although it didn't hurt that much to walk now, she didn't want to limp to attend the engagement ceremony. It was better to sit in a wheelchair. She walked into the hotel in a blue gown. Before she entered the door, she was spotted by the reporters at the entrance. "Lin Che, look. That's Lin Che, right?" Lin Che was still in a daze when she saw several cameras pointing at her. The reporters swarmed over. Although they were blocked by the hotel security, they still asked Lin Che excitedly, "Are you here for my sister's engagement ceremony? You are Lin Li's biological sister, right?" Lin Che could only smile generously. The reporters kept snapping pictures of her smile and continued to ask, "Do you have any scenes with Lin Li in the new TV series? How do you feel about the two sisters? Did Lin Li invite anyone from the crew? Has Jiyu Jingyu been invited? Will he come with us? Lin Che, has Jiyu Jingyu contacted you in private?" It was the first time that Lin Che was surrounded like this. She didn't expect that she would be recognized by the reporters immediately because of the scandal. Inside, Han Kaing saw that Lin Che was blocked by the reporters and couldn't get in. Han Kaing's face darkened when she saw the enthusiasm of the reporters. Who was Lin Che? How could he be surrounded by reporters and look so glamorous? Was she here to steal the limelight? Chapter 40. Lin Che was still sitting in his wheelchair. He laughed dryly, not knowing how to answer these questions. She didn't expect to meet reporters here. She was wearing a blue gown that revealed her shoulders. It was natural and elegant, and she looked fresh and elegant. Her hair was raised high, revealing part of her neck, which was very beautiful. Han Kaing was furious. She was sure that Lin Che did it on purpose. How dare he say that he wasn't interested in Qin Qing? Finally, The security stopped the reporters, and Lin Che entered. He saw Han Kaiying wearing a festive dress. However, she looked like she wanted to wear all the most valuable things in her house. She looked like a nouveau riche. She glared at Lin Che and said, "Hey, you should have told me earlier that you couldn't walk properly. Then, I wouldn't have rushed you here." Lin Che snorted. "Really? But how can I not come to my sister's wedding?" Han Kaiying said, "Look at you. You were discovered by the reporters as soon as you arrived. Of course, it's easy to be discovered when you're sitting in a wheelchair." Did Han Kaiying mean that she was sitting in a wheelchair on purpose to attract attention? Lin Che couldn't be bothered to explain. He just sat there and smiled as he said, "I didn't expect there to be reporters here either. Auntie, it's your engagement ceremony that caused such a ruckus and alerted the reporters. That's why I can ride on the east wind and make use of my sister to get on the headlines. Didn't you say that you wanted me to freeload on the headlines?" "You." Han Kaiying said that, but she was just being sarcastic. She didn't expect that the reporters knew Lin Che and were so interested in him. Of course, Han Kaiying had underestimated Jiyu Jingyu's influence. The rumors about him would only stop after a long time. Okay. You're right. Your sister is famous, so it's only right for me to bring you along." She could only say that. She glared at Lin Che and thought to herself, no matter what, Lin Li is the star of today. Soon, she arranged for Lin Che to sit in a corner so that no one could see him, so that he could steal the limelight again. Just then, Qin Qing walked out from afar. Qin Qing was dressed very neatly in a white gown today. He was the male lead today, so naturally, he was like Prince Charming. As soon as he appeared, he won everyone's attention. The young master of the Qin family had grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was destined to be a winner in life. Today, he was going to be engaged to the beautiful and sexy star, Lin Li. Just thinking about it made him envious. Lin Che saw Qin Qing from afar and suddenly felt that he was really good-looking. She couldn't help but take another glance at him. Only when she felt him looking at her did she hurriedly retract her gaze. She thought bitterly, "This is my last glance, my last glance." It was a pity that he had to be with Lin Li. If it was someone else, it might be easier for her to wish him well. However, thinking that it was Lin Li, she was already very unwilling. How could she still wish him well? When Qin Qing saw Lin Che, her peach blossom-like eyes paused for a moment, and she slightly widened her eyes. Sitting in the wheelchair, she looked so dazzling. Her appearance was also extremely beautiful. It seemed that it had not been long since the last time he saw her. However, he felt that she was like a butterfly that was transforming, becoming more and more beautiful day by day. One day, she would break out of her shell. At this moment, he heard someone say, "Isn't that Lin Che?" "Lin Che? Who's that?" "That's Jiyu Jingyu's rumored girlfriend." "Oh, it's her. Didn't they say that she was creating hype?" "Yeah, the news has been gone for a few days. However, looking at her in person, she looks much better than on TV." Qin Qing squinted her eyes and looked over. Indeed, she was much better looking. However, she still felt strange when she thought of the scandal between her and Jiyu Jingyu. She thought that the scandal would disappear soon, but she didn't expect that it would affect her for such a long time. At this moment, the engagement party was about to start. Qin Qing wanted to go and find Lin Che, but she saw that Lin Li had already come from afar. Lin Li was wearing a white gown, looking like a pure angel. Qin Qing smiled and hurried over to greet her. The engagement party soon began. It was an extremely gorgeous engagement party, which showed the generosity of the Qin family and the Lin family. The marriage between the two families would definitely not be too simple. With so many reporters coming to support them, they had to be worthy of their reputation. Lin Che was arranged to sit in a corner. Looking at the front, Qin Qing and Lin Li stood in front of everyone and received blessings. Qin Qing looked at Lin Li with a sweet expression. She couldn't help but feel touched. She held Lin Li's hand and said, "I'll be good to you for the rest of my life." Lin Li was so touched that she burst into tears immediately. The engagement party of the two came to an end in a warm and touching atmosphere. It looked like a perfect fairy tale. And Lin Che was just an insignificant side character in this story. She sat there, looking miserable, but she felt that she had accepted it. At the engagement party, Qin Qing only paid attention to Lin Li. When it was over and Lin Li went to the interview, he realized that he hadn't seen Lin Che. After looking around, he found her in the corner. Qin Qing strode over and looked at Lin Che with a smile. He looked at her gown and felt that she was becoming more and more feminine. Lin Che, why are you hiding so far away? He said. Lin Che saw Qin Qing and smiled. He thought to himself that it wasn't her who was hiding so far away. It was Auntie who moved her so far away. However, she was originally a person in the corner of the Lin family. It was predictable that Auntie would arrange for her to be here. Qin Qing looked at Lin Che and said, I want to ask you about the scandal between you and Jiyu Jingyu. Lin Che was stunned. He said speechlessly, why are you paying attention to this too? Qin Qing smiled and said, I can't not pay attention to it. I get flooded with news every day. Lin Che smiled embarrassedly. It's just a scandal. Qin Qing said, I think so too. But you should stay away from Jiyu Jingyu. I told you that he's not a simple person. Lin Che said, I just know him and we're just friends. We're not as close as the news reports say, okay? Qin Qing heard this and nodded. That's good. I'm afraid that you're always so silly. It's not good if you get cheated. Lin Che only smiled bitterly. Yes, she was that silly. At this moment, Lin Youzai seemed to have seen Lin Che and Qin Qing chatting happily in the distance. He couldn't help but frown. Lin Che had been too ostentatious recently. What did it look like to let others see her chatting with her brother-in-law? Lin Youzai walked over fearlessly and said politely to Qin Qing with a smile, I'm here to say a few words to Lin Che. It was natural for a father to talk to his daughter. Qin Qing stood up immediately. Oh, okay. Uncle, take your time. Seeing that Qin Qing had left, Lin Youzai's expression darkened. Lin Che, what's wrong with you recently? Why are there rumors about you and Jiyu Jingyu? Jiyu Jingyu again. Lin Che laughed coldly and said to her father, it's just a scandal. What's wrong with it? Lin Youzai's face immediately froze at her attitude. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? I asked you to get married, but you didn't want to. You offended the Cheng family and you still want us to clean up after you. Do you know how much money the Cheng family has? You ran away and never came back. You even messed around with people. I know you want to be famous, but Jiyu Jingyu isn't someone you can mess with. You're really unscrupulous in order to be famous. You'll regret it when you lose yourself in it. Chapter 41. Lin Che looked at her father and said, Dad, how am I unscrupulous? This scandal has nothing to do with me. If you behave yourself, you can go to the Cheng family and apologize to them. They haven't decided on a marriage partner yet. Han Kaiying was unwilling to let Lin Yu marry them. Lin Youzai could only watch as the Cheng family's money was given to someone else. He was really anxious. Lin Che knew what her father was thinking. She looked at Lin Youzai mockingly. She didn't expect him to still think about this matter. Dad, don't think about this. It's not that I don't want to. Actually, I already have a boyfriend and I won't marry anyone else. Lin Che didn't want to say that she was already married. She just mentioned that she had a boyfriend. Lin Youzai was stunned. He looked at Lin Che in surprise and said, Are you serious? Lin Che laughed and said, Why would I lie to you about this? Jiyu Jingyu? Of course not. It's just a scandal. Lin Youzai rolled his eyes in disappointment. It was impossible. How could a man like Jiyu Jingyu take a fancy to her? Lin Youzai harumphed. You'd better not find any poor gigolo from your circle to be an eyesore. Let me tell you, I won't agree to it. Don't get cheated by others. What's so bad about the Cheng family? When you get there, you'll be the young madam. You'll enjoy endless blessings and have endless money to spend. If you want the Cheng family's money so badly, let Auntie marry them. I'm your daughter and you're even selling me off. Lin Che felt really sad. She never thought that she would be born in such a family. Lin Youzai's face darkened. At this moment, Han Kaiying heard what he said. Lin Che, what kind of attitude is this? I invited you to attend the engagement ceremony because I treat you as a family member. How dare you speak to your father and me like this? Lin Che sneered and said, only you know why you asked me to come back. Anyway, I already have a man. I don't believe that the Cheng family will still be willing. You should quickly give up on this idea. Han Cai was so angry that her face turned red. You shameless bastard. I knew it. You're going to fool around outside and you still have the cheek to say that you already have a man. You've been fooled by someone and you still have the cheek to brag about it. Lin Che already knew that no matter what he did, in their eyes, it would always be wrong. If she came looking sloppy, they'd say she didn't take the place seriously enough. She had tidied herself up, and they thought that she was showing off. Lin Che immediately turned around to leave. However, at this moment, someone suddenly said quietly, could it be that you guys are forcing Lin Che to marry someone else? His voice was gloomy and hoarse, but it had a heavenly charm to it. Lin Che turned around and saw Jiyu Jingze, who was dressed in a black suit, walking over leisurely. Jiyu Jingze's tall figure had the aura of a king that couldn't be ignored. It was as if he was the sovereign of the 9-5 realms. His eyes, which were as calm as an ancient well, carried an insufferably arrogant air. It was as if no one could enter his eyes. Lin Che was still sitting in the wheelchair when he felt his hand push against the back of the wheelchair. It was natural and unrestrained. Lin Che did not expect him to come. No one expected him to come. Lin Che did not even tell him that she would be here. After all, they were only married by contract, and this was her private matter. She didn't want to disturb him because of this. Raising her head, she met his dark, emotionless eyes. He looked at her deeply, then raised his eyes, as if he was using the corner of his eyes to look at Lin Yozai and Han Kaiying in front of him with disdain, making it obvious that he was looking down on them. Han Kaiying was stunned. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and said bluntly, where are you from? Jiyu Jingze glanced at Han Kaiying indifferently. His voice was cold. Although it was restrained, it had an uncontrollable sharpness to it. Is this your auntie? He seemed to ignore Han Kaiying as he lowered his head and asked Lin Che. Lin Che looked at Han Kaiying's face, which immediately turned green, and said, yeah. Han Kaiying pointed at Jiyu Jingze angrily. Ha, you're the gigolo that Lin Che was talking about just now, right? Who told you to come here? Jiyu Jingze held the wheelchair and looked at Han Kaiying. He said matter-of-factly, of course I brought my family to attend the wedding. Since you invited Lin Che, what's wrong with bringing me along? Lin Che thought that Han Kaiying definitely did not know who Jiyu Jingze was. Lin Che would never have thought that there would be such a person. Firstly, she could not come into contact with such a high and mighty person, so she would not purposely ask about him. Secondly, although there seemed to be a lot of reporters secretly taking pictures of him, they had never succeeded. He had too many people around him, and he would not let any of them escape. So until now, not a single picture had been leaked. He was such a low-key person. Ordinary people would naturally only hear about him, but never see him. Han Kaiying sized up Jiyu Jingze. He was not very good-looking. She wondered if he was also an actor or a celebrity. Han Kaiying snorted and said bluntly, who do you think you are? How dare you call yourself a family member? If you want to marry our Lin Che, you should at least get our permission. We haven't agreed yet, and we definitely won't agree. Jiyu Jingze's voice was cold as usual. There was no warmth in it at all. I don't need anyone's permission to marry who I want to marry. Ha, you're too arrogant. She's still a member of the Lin family. Our daughter can't just be taken away by some wretch. Tell me first, what do you do? How much money do you earn every month? Do you have a house? Are you a local? Do you have a car? How much are you going to give us as a betrothal gift? Let me tell you, if our betrothal gift is less than $1 million, don't even think about marrying her. All these years, she has been eating and living in our Lin family's house. She carries the name of Miss Lin and is extremely noble. Do you think she gets it for free? Jiyu Jingze said, $1 million? Han Kaiying said, what? You can't afford it. If you can't afford it, then get lost. At this moment, Lin Yotsai, who was behind them, hurriedly pulled Han Kaiying over. He looked at Jiyu Jingze, his eyes dancing. He seemed to be trying to curry favor with him. Are you really our Lin Che's boyfriend? Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Lin Che pursed his lips and looked at him embarrassedly. His gaze was like the stars in a lake, rippling and rippling. Jiyu Jingze said, yes. Lin Yotsai smiled. This Lin Che didn't sue us back then. Since we're friends, he should have told us earlier. Chapter 42. Lin Che was stunned. She looked up and saw that Lin Yotsai's gaze had changed. What did he mean? Did his attitude suddenly change? Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Yotsai and said, we just got together, so I haven't had the chance to go home with her. Oh, you're welcome anytime. Come home soon. Lin Yotsai chuckled and said, we've done a lot for Lin Che. She's still young and doesn't understand, but she'll understand in the future. We're doing this for her own good. Thank you for taking care of her. Jiyu Jingze lowered his head and held her hand. Lin Che stared blankly for a moment before raising his head. Jiyu Jingze said calmly, Lin Che is the most innocent, adorable and beautiful girl I've ever met. I'm very happy to be with her, so I'll definitely treat her well. Lin Che's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Jiyu Jingze. She had never thought that he would help her like this. Naturally, she felt very touched. There had never been anyone who treated her so well. Lin Yotsai's eyes sparkled as he looked at Jiyu Jingze. He gradually became more humble. Han Kaiying looked at her husband unhappily. She couldn't imagine why he would be so submissive to a pretty boy. Jiyu Jingze pushed Lin Che. Lin Che's leg was injured in the car accident and hasn't recovered yet. She needs to rest. If there's nothing else, I'll take Lin Che to rest first. Lin Yotsai said immediately, okay, this way please. Jiyu Jingze took one last look at Han Kaiying and looked at her disdainfully. The way he pushed Lin Che forward made Han Kaiying grit her teeth. How dare he be so arrogant in front of her? Qin Qing saw from afar that Lin Che was actually leaving with a handsome man with a frosty expression. Her heart trembled slightly. Who was that man? Qin Qing looked at the man who was pushing Lin Che. He seemed very considerate. Qin Qing walked over with a strange look on her face. She heard Han Kaiying yelling at Lin Yotsai angrily, what are you doing? Facing that gigolo? Look at you, your face is sticking to his feet. Han Kaiying was embarrassed. Lin Xiangtian glared at Han Kaiying. I'm afraid that man isn't ordinary. Han Kaiying said, yeah, he looks like a dog, but Qin Qing isn't bad looking either, and she's richer than him. Lin Yotsai snorted and said, forget it. Didn't you see the ring on his hand? I'm afraid not everyone has that ring. Ha, it's just a ring. Why would a man wear jewelry? Han Kaiying said disdainfully. Lin Yotsai said, what do you know? I've seen someone wear that ring before and he wore it publicly on television. Who is it? Which celebrity? Han Kaiying thought that those who could appear on TV were usually celebrities. Lin Yotsai narrowed his eyes and said, President. Han Kaiying was stunned and immediately blurted out, how is that possible? Are you crazy? You must have seen wrongly. Just then, Qin Qing walked over and heard them talking about the president's ring. She said in a serious tone, Uncle, Auntie, what are you talking about? The president does wear a ring because he's a member of the Jiyu family and the ring is the symbol of the Jiyu family, so he usually carries it with him. That man just now. He's also a member of the Jiyu family. There was only one member of the Jiyu family who had never been photographed in public, and that was the low-profile Jiyu Jingze. Could the man who pushed Lin Che away just now be Jiyu Jingze? His words made the few of them fall into silence. I think it's very likely. Lin Yotsai was elated to hear Qin Qing's affirmation. Han Kaiying, on the other hand, was extremely depressed. She shouted in disbelief, how is that possible? You guys are thinking too much. With that little slut Lin Che's looks, how could he hook up with such a high and mighty person? You guys think too highly of Lin Che. Of course, Han Kaiying didn't want to believe it. How was that possible? Lin Li was as beautiful as a fairy. Many people were envious of her for finding Qin Qing and getting engaged to her. How could a little bitch like Lin Che meet such a rich and powerful man? She refused to believe it no matter what. Qin Qing was also puzzled. Then, how did they know each other? Han Kaing said straightforwardly, "Humph. Even if it's him, I'm sure he just wants to play with Lin Che. Lin Che is so bold now that he's seducing Jiyu Jingyu and another man at the same time. Has he been provoked by Lin Li and started to risk his life for money? Yotsai, you still want to encourage her? Stop playing around. Not only will she get herself into trouble, but she will also offend others." Then, she crossed her arms angrily. She looked like a firecracker that was about to explode. Qin Qing heard Han Kaing's words and looked in the direction where Lin Che and that man left with a deep gaze. The people around them looked at Lin Che and Jiyu Jingzi strangely. They couldn't help but discuss it. "Who's the man who went with Lin Che? Yeah, I've never seen him before. He's so handsome. His eyes are so charming. I think he's even more handsome than the bridegroom today." Lin Li heard some people's strange comments. When she heard the last sentence, "He's even more handsome than today's bridegroom," she suddenly turned her head. Lin Che was with a man. Lin Li's heart sank. This Lin Che definitely had it all planned out today. He was here to steal her limelight. Jiyu Jingzi kept pushing Lin Che until they reached a place with fewer people. Lin Che seemed to heave a sigh of relief. He looked up at Jiyu Jingzi and asked, "Why are you here?" Jiyu Jingzi said, "There's a happy occasion in your family. As your husband, shouldn't I come and see?" He looked behind and could vaguely see Qin Qing's figure. He thought to himself, "I don't know what kind of taste Lin Che has, but that man looks like a pretty boy. Could it be that Lin Che liked this type?" Jiyu Jingzi's expression became even more tense as he thought about it. Lin Che said, "This is just my sister's engagement party. It's also the engagement party of the man you like." Jiyu Jingzi said disdainfully. Lin Che couldn't help but say, "Hey, it's not Qin Qing. Isn't that her name?" Jiyu Jingzi looked at her. Lin Che's face darkened slightly. She pouted and admitted unwillingly, "That's the name I used to like. Anyway, as your husband, of course I have to accompany you to this kind of party." Lin Che was speechless. "You don't have to, it's okay. I'm your husband." Jiyu Jingzi pushed her to the food area. Lin Che reminded him, "It's a contract." Jiyu Jingzi said, "As long as we're not divorced, you're still my wife in the household register. Legally and morally, you're my wife, so I should come." Lin Che raised his head. He could feel a warm current in his heart. Because of his words, they were slowly flowing. Chapter 43. Just then, Lin Che saw a group of reporters moving. "Reporters are coming. No, I have to leave now." I ran into them and was surrounded for a while. She had no experience dealing with reporters, so she didn't know what to say. She was afraid that if she said something wrong, the reporters would catch her out of it and affect her work. Jiyu Jingzi took a look and said, "There's a place to hide inside. Let's go." With that, Jiyu Jingzi signaled his men to go over and take a look. Under the protection of the bodyguards, the two of them walked deeper into the hotel. Seeing that the reporters weren't following them, Lin Che heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Good thing we got rid of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to do." Jiyu Jingzi looked at her speechlessly. If not for the fact that the hotel was owned by the Jiyu Corporation and that his men were everywhere, she would have been able to escape. It wasn't that the reporters didn't follow them, but that they were stopped. Soon, they reached a room in the hotel to rest. Jiyu Jingzi said, "I asked someone to bring you some food. You can eat first." "That's great, Jiyu Jingzi. You're the best." She looked up at Jiyu Jingzi, her big, moist eyes filled with exaggerated gratitude. Jiyu Jingzi knew that she was acting, but he still felt a sense of satisfaction. "Treat me better if you know that I'm good," he said as he pushed the plate to her. She was in a wheelchair and it was inconvenient for her. Seeing that the food was thoughtfully placed in front of her, she looked at him even more happily. This man wasn't so annoying sometimes. Lin Che ate a few pieces of food. Jiyu Jingzi's phone rang and he went to answer it. On the phone, the bodyguard said, "Sir, Mr. Lin Yotsai wanted to visit you, but we stopped him." Ji Jingze was expressionless. He turned his head and looked at Lin Che. "Okay." Putting down the phone, he saw that Lin Che was moving around as if she was tugging at her clothes. Ji Jingze asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Che lowered her head and tried to grab the belt, but she couldn't. She tugged at the belt helplessly and said, "It seems that the back of my clothes is knotted." Ji Jingze shook his head speechlessly and walked over. "All right, you're so clumsy. I'll do it for you." Lin Che could only say, "All right then. You're smart." He said, "Look at your stupid face." He came behind her and saw that the straps on the back of her clothes were tangled with the straps on the wheelchair. Indeed, it was difficult for her to untie them. He pulled up the suspenders and said, "Who told you to wear such ugly clothes?" Lin Che felt his hands moving randomly behind his back, touching from time to time, making it hard for him to control himself. Pretending not to feel it, she harumphed and said, "We're attending an engagement ceremony, so we have to dress appropriately. Besides, aren't I your wife now? I can't possibly embarrass you. Look, the clothes I'm wearing today were borrowed by my company. They said they're branded." Ji Jingze's face darkened. "If you don't have clothes to wear, I can ask someone to buy them for you." "Why should I ask the company to lend you clothes? How troublesome would that be?" "Is it troublesome, or do you not want to tell me that you're here to attend your sweetheart's engagement ceremony?" As Ji Jingze said this, he couldn't help but tighten his grip. Thinking of how she had come to her sweetheart's engagement ceremony with the mentality of a desperate person, he felt even more uncomfortable. Lin Che felt pain on her back. She turned around angrily and said to Ji Jingze, "Hey, if you don't want to help me, then don't do it, okay? You're hurting me." "Sorry, I wasn't paying attention." He also felt that his thoughts had come out of nowhere, so he lowered his head and started to do it more carefully. Lin Che was a little hesitant. "Hey, why are you lowering your head? Are you having an episode?" She remembered that he said that if he was too close to a woman, his allergies would act up. He would have many symptoms, such as vomiting and rashes. Ji Jingze said, "Why would I? I'm just afraid that you'll have an episode if you touch me. When have I ever been so embarrassed in front of you?" Ji Jingze said angrily, "Speaking of which, I've seen a lot of embarrassing things about you." Lin Che turned around and glared at Ji Jingze. "I want to." She had drugged him, made a fool of herself, and even made a scene while drunk. He really had seen all kinds of embarrassing things. Lin Che thought that Mo Hualing definitely wouldn't do that. No wonder he loved Mo Hualing and didn't like her. Women had to keep their distance in front of men and maintain their image. Otherwise, men wouldn't like them. Especially Ji Jingze, who was so high up in the hierarchy, he must have seen a lot of virtuous ladies. Ji Jingze looked at her zipper seriously. He was very conflicted and couldn't open it for a while. Just as he was doing it seriously, he suddenly noticed that his head was facing the back of her fair and tender neck. Below, her clothes swayed, and the spring scenery in front of him was faintly discernible. He vaguely remembered that she had said that her breasts were in the shape of a peach. Now that he looked at it, it was true. Although half of it was covered by the light blue bra, he could still see half of her smooth and tender breast swaying. From this angle, he could see a large patch of skin on her back. There were almost no pores on her delicate porcelain smooth skin, only a layer of fine hair on it, which looked like a baby's skin. Unexpectedly, he felt something warm in his throat. He moved his mouth and averted his gaze, but he still felt irritated. However, it seemed that the more anxious he was, the more messy his hands became. He couldn't help but be annoyed that he couldn't undo it no matter how hard he tried. He exerted force and cursed, "Shit, why aren't you undoing it?" With this force, the clothes were torn. This was bad. Lin Che didn't expect this. He grabbed the clothes and looked up at Ji Jingze speechlessly. He shouted angrily, feeling that the tender flesh on his body was becoming more and more uncomfortable under the cold air. "What's wrong, Ji Jingze? Is there anyone who helps like this?" Ji Jingze was also a little annoyed. At this moment, his ears were a little red. He looked there and didn't know what to do. Most of her clothes fell off and her body was half covered, but it was even more alluring. Her whole body seemed to be emitting light, and the fine hair on her body was suffused with the scent of a baby. How could he control himself? His heart suddenly jumped, as if something was stirring it. She turned around and glared at Ji Jingze fiercely. "Your clothes are all ruined. Do you know how much they cost?" Ji Jingze said angrily, "I'll pay you back." "Mitch, you pay me back." Ji Jingze glared at her and picked up the phone. "Find me a lady's gown. I want madam's size." As he said that, he saw Lin Che looking at him with a face full of resentment. Lin Che's eyes were wide open, and her gaze was full of resentment. She was holding on to her clothes. Her chest wasn't small to begin with, but with her hands holding onto it, it seemed even bigger. Ji Jingze's eyes became a little misty. He looked at her, frowned and turned his head away. This idiot. Lin Che had no choice but to slide his wheelchair into the bathroom. He found a bathrobe and put it on temporarily. Chapter 44. Ji Jingze turned around and saw her walk out in a bathrobe. His eyes flickered. Lin Che said, "This is all I can do. Seriously, it's all your fault. Did you do this on purpose? You can break it like this." Ji Jingze only stared at her as she put on the bathrobe with the belt loosely tied around her waist. If he didn't know this woman's intelligence, she wouldn't be able to put on such a natural seduction act. He really thought that she was the one who did it on purpose. Only wearing a bathrobe, didn't that mean that there were only some undergarments left underneath? Ji Jingze's body was unbearably hot. He felt his eyes staring at her closed collar, unwilling to leave. Her collarbone moved there. Her skin was long and narrow, and her clothes were loose. It would be very easy for his hand to reach in. Ji Jingze shook his head hurriedly. He heard the sound of the door opening outside. Lin Che said, "The clothes are here already. Hurry and bring them in for me." Ji Jingze nodded. He glanced at Lin Che before opening the door and going out. The room was a suite with a bedroom inside and a living room outside. After Ji Jingze closed the door, he took a deep breath and walked over to open the door. However, what he saw was a white-faced, black-haired man. Qin Qing. Qin Qing's eyes twitched when she saw Ji Jingze. She couldn't help but glance inside. She only retracted her gaze when she didn't see Lin Che. Thinking about the relationship between Ji Jingze and Lin Che, she was still full of doubts. She asked, "Is Lin Che here?" Qin Qing was a little fearful of the person in front of her. Her gaze involuntarily fell on the ring on his hand. Upon closer inspection, her eyes lit up. It really looked like the Ji family's ring. However, for some reason, she didn't want to be at a disadvantage in front of this man. Thus, her gaze became even more aggressive as she said, "I'm Lin Che's friend." Ji Jingze stood there. He was half a head taller than Qin Qing. His pitch-black eyes were unfathomable, like a boundless night sky. They were so deep that no one could see through them. Looking Qin Qing up and down, Ji Jingze thought unhappily. He didn't know what attracted Lin Che to this man. What kind of taste did she have? Did she like pretty boys like him? Otherwise, why would one of them be Ji Jingyu and the other Qin Qing? Both of them looked exactly the same and looked so cute. Ji Jingze's voice was cold and arrogant. Even though he maintained his gentlemanly manners, he still gave off the feeling that he was superior and inviolable. Lin Che is inside, but it's a little inconvenient right now. Inconvenient? Qin Qing asked doubtfully. "Tell her it's me. She'll come see me." Ji Jingze touched his nose with his slender fingers. There was a hint of ambiguity in his eyes. "It's not that inconvenient. She's naked, so it's not appropriate for her to open the door." Qin Qing was stunned. Seeing the expression on Qin Qing's face, Ji Jingze continued, "It's all my fault for accidentally ruining her clothes. I'm calling someone to send some clothes over, so it's not convenient for her to come out for the time being." Although his words were vague, Qin Qing understood immediately. Qin Qing's face immediately revealed some awkwardness. She never thought that the man in front of her and Lin Che really had this kind of relationship. Qin Qing said, "Maybe you don't know this, But Lin Che and I have known each other for many years. He looked at Ji Jingze with hostility. Oh, I heard Lin Che mention it before, Ji Jingze said calmly. She mentioned it to me. I know that you may be powerful and have unlimited power, but Lin Che is a very innocent girl. I don't want her to be hurt. So, if you want to play with her feelings, I definitely won't sit by and watch. Han Kaiying said that even if Ji Jingze was in a relationship with her, he was still playing with her and would get rid of her after he was done playing with her. This made Qin Qing very unhappy. He vaguely felt that Ji Jingze wasn't a good match for him. Maybe he was playing with Lin Che. But why would Lin Che get together with him? Was she tricked by Ji Jingze? Ji Jingze never thought that he would be threatened by Qin Qing one day. He looked at Qin Qing and said, if you're warning me as a friend, I can tell you that my relationship with Lin Che is very solid, and our relationship is very harmonious. We trust each other, and there are no secrets between us. There are also promises between us that will not be broken. What he said was the truth, even though it wasn't what he said. At this moment, Ji Jingze's expression changed. He looked at Qin Qing with a dangerous look in his eyes, but, if you're warning me as a man, then I need to remind you that Lin Che is now my woman. His sharp expression was like a sharp sword, making Qin Qing feel extremely threatened in an instant. Qin Qing disliked Ji Jingze even more. However, at this moment, she saw a waiter come over with 2 sets of clothes. Sir, the clothes you wanted are here. Ji Jingze's expression softened. He said to the waiter, just send them in. Qin Qing didn't ignore the logo on the clothes. They were all top-notch brands. Each piece of clothing cost about 100,000 yuan. Ji Jingze looked distant. He looked at Qin Qing and said, if there's nothing else, I'm going in. With that, he closed the door without waiting for Qin Qing to speak. Qin Qing looked at the closed door angrily. She felt that she had been snubbed here and was very unhappy. She disliked this Ji Jingze even more for no reason. Ji Jingze walked in with the clothes. Lin Che was still waiting inside. When she saw that Ji Jingze had finally returned, she asked, were you talking to someone at the door just now? The soundproofing of the hotel was too good. She didn't dare to go out. She could only hear vague voices, but she couldn't make out what they were saying. Ji Jingze nodded. Yeah, a mad dog came and I got someone to chase it away. He wasn't someone who would be mean to strangers. He didn't even know Qin Qing. However, he felt disgusted at the mention of her, so he blurted out harsh words. Lin Che smiled and said in surprise, what's going on? This is a hotel. Why would a dog come in? I said it was a mad dog. Of course mad dogs like to run around and poke their noses into other people's business. He handed the clothes to her. Go in and try it on. It's your size. Lin Che looked down. The clothes looked very beautiful. They were made of high-quality material. Wow, was it very expensive? She said. Ji Jingze said, I don't know. Lin Che raised his head and looked at Ji Jingze with a smile. You're so pretty. You look so classy. Thank you, Ji Jingze. I didn't expect to be classy with you as your wife. It's really nice. Looking at Lin Che's fawning look, she didn't think it was ugly. She only thought it was cute. It was also the first time Ji Jingze felt that a few simple compliments from her had made him feel a little vain. Chapter 45. Ji Jingze said, You're drooling on your clothes. Lin Che grinned as he wiped the corner of his mouth and said, There's no saliva. Ji Jingze looked at her speechlessly. Can't you act like a girl? Lin Che raised his head. How do I not look like a girl? Ji Jingze said, What a moneygrubber. Lin Che harumphed indifferently. He even patted her skirt with a miserly look on his face. What's wrong? I'm still pretending in front of others. What's there to pretend in front of you? Don't tell me that if I pretend to be a little more decent, a little more shy, a little more pitiful, and a little more virtuous, you'll fall in love with me. As she said that, she blinked at him with her big eyes that she thought were smart. Ji Jingze glared at her speechlessly. Perhaps it was because she was too lazy to pretend that she wasn't that annoying. As Lin Che spoke, He entered the bathroom and couldn't wait to put on his clothes. When he came out, he was wearing a light yellow dress. It was fresh and refined, looking very sunny. Ji Jingza's eyes lit up when he saw that she looked completely different from her usual self. Lin Che slowly tiptoed, and the hem of her dress bloomed like a flower, bright and beautiful like the sun. Lin Che said, "Does it look good?" Ji Jingza paused for a second and said, "I think so." Hearing this, Lin Che said, "Expensive clothes really make a difference." With that, he happily sat back in his wheelchair. Ji Jingza looked at her carefree face and thought, "I'm complimenting her. Can't you tell?" His IQ was so low that it was touching. Soon, Ji Jingza pushed her out of the hotel. Lin Che said, "This hotel is really good. It must be very expensive, right?" Ji Jingza didn't even look at her. "The hotel is owned by the Ji family. It's free." Only then did Lin Che react. He hurriedly turned around to take a look. The magnificent hall seemed to have a few stars. 5-star? 7 stars. Lin Che said, "All the hotels under the Ji family are 7 stars. Lin Che immediately regretted leaving so early. "Oh, you should have told me earlier. I haven't stayed in such a high-end hotel before. I should have stayed here tonight. It's free anyway." Ji Jingza said, "If you want, you can go back now." Of course, Lin Che was just joking. She looked up at Ji Jingza and said, "Do you want to go back together? I'm not used to staying in hotels. It's not safe." "Hey, how is that possible? I remember the first time I saw you, didn't you stay in a hotel? Otherwise, how could he be drugged by her?" Ji Jingza looked at her indifferently with a straight face. Indeed, who was it that made him feel that no matter how tight the security was, the hotel was still not safe? "Well, I haven't been staying in a hotel since then," he said, glancing at her. Lin Che laughed dryly. "So it was because of her." Lin Che quickly smiled and changed the topic. "Well, you're staying in a hotel with me now. What's there to be afraid of? We've already registered our marriage. Staying at home is staying at home, but staying in a hotel is different." As she said that, she leaned against him intimately. Ji Jingza tilted his head and looked at her. "Why would you stay in a hotel when you have a place to stay?" Lin Che looked up and blinked. "An old married couple needs more passion. Don't you think that a hotel is a place that can easily arouse people's imagination? It's full of passion." Ji Jingza looked at her pursed lips. His eyes were full of frivolity, and his suggestive tone made his heart itch. His gaze couldn't help but fall on her chest. There was a slight bulge in the small split collar, which could be felt. Didn't she know that this scene could easily attract people to commit crimes? He frowned and pushed Lin Che away. "I'm not going." "Aya, then we can do it in the car. It's actually more exciting in the car. It's a narrow space, and there are people walking around outside. The thrill of being discovered at any time." Ji Jingza really wanted to open this woman's head and see what was in it. However, the way she squinted her eyes and moved closer really made his mouth dry. The driver saw the two of them looking at each other as if they were about to explode. He was speechless. What are these couple doing? Are they really going to do something here? He's still here. He's still alive, but even if they really wanted to do something, as a well-trained driver, he couldn't say a word. But he really didn't want to see it. Luckily, Ji Jingza only pushed Lin Che away again and uncomfortably adjusted the lapel of his shirt. Lin Che smiled and said, "Hey, Ji Jingza, why is your face so red?" Ji Jingza glared at her even more darkly, telling her to shut up. Lin Che grinned and said, "Wow, you're not shy, are you? Ji Jingza, I didn't expect you to be so innocent." "Shut up. Have you never done this with Miss Mo before?" she asked as she tugged at his arm. Ji Jingza's face darkened. "Do you think everyone is as shameless as you?" Lin Che pouted. His Miss Mo was the best. Thinking of Mo Hualing, his face darkened a little. Seeing this, Lin Che tugged at him and said, "All right, don't be angry. I was just saying." She leaned against him and sighed as she said, "I know that you and Miss Mo really love each other, but you can't be together. She's by your side, but you can't hold her in your arms. Ayo, what a sadistic relationship." Thinking about it, I sympathize with Miss Mo. She must be looking forward to seeing you every day. Ji Jing's face darkened even more as he listened. Lin Che, who was slow to realize this, didn't realize it at all. He was still talking to himself. Why don't you spend more time with Miss Mo? You even came here to look for me. If you have the time, you can totally have a candlelit dinner with her or something. Ji Jingze looked at her. You're really considerate of us. Should he give her a medal for being a model wife? Of course. Who are we? Since we're living together, it's my duty to help you share your worries. It's okay. If you're unhappy in the future, you can tell me and I'll help you relieve your worries. You won't have to look at me with a long face every day. I'll be much happier too. It's a win-win situation. There's no need for that. If I need to relieve my worries, I have a psychologist. Aya, does a psychologist have to pay more? I've already spent so much of your money, so I can't just take it for free. It's okay. You can totally treat me as a doctor. Lin Che said, really? Oh yeah, that Dr. Chen. Do I have to spend a lot of money to get him to come to our house? Lin Che thought about it. He looked like a pretty capable person, so he probably had to earn tens of thousands of yuan a month. Ji Jingze said, an annual salary of 30 million. Lin Che said, dear, you can really hire me. Really, I'm not that expensive. I'll come whenever you want. I'll keep it a secret and be responsible for my safety. We're still husband and wife. Chapter 46. The word darling stunned him for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure when he saw Lin Che's moneygrubber face. Did Lin Che have no moral integrity at all because of moneygrubber? Really, even if you tell me about murder and arson, I will keep it a secret for you. After all, we are in the same boat, right? Lin Che said excitedly. Ji Jingze glanced at her. There is indeed someone I want to strangle to death, but I can't because of the law and morality. Huh? No way. Why are you so violent? Who is it? His gaze fell on her body as if he was implying something. No matter how stupid Lin Che was, he soon realized what was going on. He was talking about her. She knew that her existence was hindering his chance to be with Mo Hualing, but there was no need for him to hate her so much. Ji Jingze, what's the use of trying to kill me? Look, what happened between us has happened. Even if you kill me, it won't change anything. You will get yourself involved in a murder case. But let's get along well. In a few years, I will go my own way, and you will go your own way. You should be with Miss Mo, and you can still be together. Isn't that great? Why did you have to make such a big deal out of it, right? Ji Jingze took a deep breath, looked ahead, and asked the driver to hurry up. Otherwise, if he continued to stay with Lin Che in this small place, he might really be driven crazy by her stupidity. When they arrived home, Ji Jingze hurriedly got out of the car. Seeing Lin Che stumbling out of the car, the driver hurriedly ran to get the wheelchair. He shook his head, walked back patiently, and carried her into the wheelchair. At night, Lin Che was in her room, and saw that the news had already reported about Lin Li's engagement party. The engagement banquet that was filmed from here was incomparably gorgeous, and it made people envious. Lin Che saw the comments below. Many people were saying that Lin Li was so beautiful and that her husband was so handsome. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She closed the comments, lay there, and scrolled to her Weibo. Because there were always a lot of comments, Lin Che turned off the notifications. However, at this moment, she saw a post on Weibo that had been posted recently, and the number of comments was increasing crazily. He clicked on the comments and saw, the comment said, although I don't think you deserve our Ji Jingyu, since he likes you, we still wish you the best. Everyone knew that Ji Jingyu's fans called themselves feathers. Lin Che was stunned. What did she mean by he liked her? There were even comments below that said, they're really together. Best wishes. Treat our Jingyu well. He is so naive and so hardworking. Don't hurt him. The more Lin Che looked at it, the more he felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Yu Minmin called. Lin Che picked up the call and heard Yu Minmin say, Lin Che, what happened? Are you with Ji Jingyu? What's going on? Lin Che had no idea what was going on. Didn't you see Jiyu Jingyu's post on Weibo? Of course, Lin Che didn't know. Everyone is crazy. From what he said, it seems like he's already with you. He told everyone not to disturb you. Lin Che said, I'll go take a look. She quickly hung up the phone and scrolled to Jiyu Jingyu's Weibo. She saw a long Weibo post that had just been posted a few minutes ago. He wrote, ever since I entered the industry, I've been very hardworking. I'm worried that I'll let down my fans, my company, and my family and friends who support me. So, I've never lived for myself. This time, I hope that I can live for myself. So, I hope that you can support us. Lin Che quickly scrolled to the comments below. People in the popular comments were saying, Jingyu is so pitiful. Let's support him. My heart is broken to see Jingyu working so hard. No matter what decision you make, I'll believe in you and support you. Celebrities are people too. They have their own private lives. We only care about your works. As long as you have good works, no matter who you're with, we'll support you. Lin Che was about to go crazy. The news and Weibo's verified accounts immediately released the news. The news said, Jiyu Jingyu seems to have admitted to being in a relationship with Lin Che. The headlines about Lin Li's engagement were suddenly pushed down by this heavy news. Lin Che held her forehead, feeling that she didn't know what to do at the moment. That night, Lin Che kept wanting to read the comments, but she was still being scolded. Although most of the fans were more polite to her because of Jiyu Jingyu, there were still many people who were watching the drama and actually said things like waiting for her to be dumped. Damn it, they weren't even together. How could she be dumped? The next day, Lin Che hurried to the company. Yu Minmin looked at her and said, you don't have to do anything now. The company will help you for the time being. Don't talk nonsense and make things more complicated. Lin Che was speechless. What should I say? I don't even know what I can say now. It's not like that at all. Isn't Jiyu Jingyu trying to harm me? Yu Minmin was worried that she would admit to it after seeing that she was in the limelight, which would make things more complicated. Newcomers who had just started to become popular often had this problem. They were eager for quick success and instant benefits. Once they saw that there was news, they would immediately rush up to gain popularity and make things more complicated. However, seeing that Lin Che didn't have this intention and was very speechless, Yu Minmin believed that she really didn't think that way. In this way, she didn't have to worry about this. Yu Minmin comforted her with a smile, it's okay. Look, everyone is supporting you and Jiyu Jingyu now. The point is that it's not like that. Why would they support us? Yu Minmin thought that this girl seemed to be very simple and didn't have any ulterior motives. She admired Lin Che even more. She patted her shoulder and said, Jiyu Jingyu has promoted you. Any news related to Jiyu Jingyu is big news. Look, yesterday Lin Li wanted to use a grand engagement to get into the headlines, but in the end, she spent so much money for nothing. Now I feel that she is the one who is going to vomit blood. Lin Che sighed. She had no experience in dealing with scandals, so she could only wait for the company's arrangement. Seeing Yu Minmin send Lin Che out personally, the other small stars in the company were very unwilling to accept it. I didn't expect her to become so popular. Yeah, it seems that the company is also paying attention to her. What kind of taste does Jiyu Jingyu have? How could he like her? Maybe she has a better life. Everyone behind them discussed maliciously. Chapter 47. Because the news had been spreading like wildfire, Lin Che could feel everyone's gazes when she arrived at the set. When the assistant director saw Lin Che, he quickly called out to her, elder sister Jiyu is here. Lin Che said gloomily, what elder sister Jiyu? Jiyu Jingyu admitted it. You are Jiyu Jingyu's wife, so you are elder sister Jiyu. Get lost. There's no such thing. Don't spout nonsense. There are reporters everywhere. There were reporters everywhere. What if they heard it? She didn't want to report it the next day. The crew had already admitted to their relationship. Then she wouldn't be able to explain herself. The assistant director immediately gave her a bench. Come, How can elder sister Jiyu sit on such a small bench? This is for the extras. We should have benches. Come, lie down here. This is yours from now on. Lin Che really wanted to slap him. Are you trying to make me hate you? There was a clear hierarchy in the production team. A small actor like Lin Che did not dare to be too ostentatious. These kinds of comfortable chairs were prepared for celebrities. Lin Che brought his own folding recliner. Usually, he would find a corner to sit on and was already very satisfied. The assistant director said with a smile, "This is the director's order. We don't dare to disobey him. Besides, you are Lin Che. You have to get used to it. You are almost on the headlines than Sister Fei Ran. You are no longer a small actor with no fame at all." With that, the assistant director pressed her down on the chair. Lin Che's mouth twitched. Sitting there, she felt that this chair was indeed much more comfortable than the folding chair she had brought herself. Waiting for the show was tiring work. Lying here and watching was indeed much more comfortable. However, the small actors next to her were indeed a little unhappy when they saw it. They looked in her direction with jealousy. Unfortunately, there was no other way. Who asked Jiyu Jingyu to fancy Lin Che? At first, they thought that Lin Che was doing it on purpose. But now that Jiyu Jingyu had admitted it, no one could say anything. They could only say that Lin Che was lucky. At this moment, Jiyu Jingyu arrived late. He saw Lin Che sitting there playing with her phone as soon as he arrived. He smiled and walked over to Lin Che, disregarding her agent's objection. Everyone's gaze also drifted over to this pair of newly popular Mandarin ducks. When Lin Che heard the commotion, she raised her head and saw Jiyu Jingyu walking over with a smirk on his face. She immediately became furious. He still dared to come? She really wanted to beat him to death now. "Hey, you're early," he greeted with a smile. Lin Che stood up and said, "Jiyu Jingyu, what nonsense are you spouting on Weibo?" Jiyu Jingyu looked innocent. He spread his hands and said, "What did I say? What did you say? Isn't it the one that was updated recently? What loneliness, what lack of freedom, what, oh, you're talking about that. Isn't it just an ordinary Weibo post? I'm just being pretentious to gain sympathy," Jiyu Jingyu said as he sat down as if nothing had happened. Lin Che hurriedly jumped up and shouted at Jiyu Jingyu, You, is that normal? Didn't you see the news?" "I saw it." He raised his head and blinked. He felt that Lin Che was really cute when he was about to explode. She knew that he did it on purpose. Jiyu Jingyu said helplessly, "It's those reporters who like to make wild guesses. I can't do anything about it. Look, I didn't mention your name at all. How could they associate it with you? I didn't say I have a girlfriend either, but they just thought of it. Tell me, what can I do?" Jiyu Jingyu said helplessly. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu's indifferent expression and wanted to tear his mouth apart. He didn't mention her name, nor did he directly admit that he was in a relationship, but the Weibo post was so obvious. Who was he kidding when he said that he didn't do it on purpose? "Anyway, you have to delete the Weibo post," Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingyu smiled and leaned against her chair. He crossed his arms and looked at her. "All right, then I'll say it. Lin Che doesn't want us to be misunderstood, so she asked me to delete the Weibo post." "Get lost. Isn't that so? You. Lin Che was really speechless. She gritted her teeth at Jiyu Jingyu, but she couldn't argue with him. Who was the one who said that Jiyu Jingyu was very cold? He was obviously a troublesome person. At the same time, Jiyu Jingze still didn't know that his wife had already started a scandal with someone else. Mo Hualing called Jiyu Jingze early in the morning. She said that she wanted to see him. Jiyu Jingze arrived at Mo Hualing's door. Mo Hualing looked at him sadly, her gaze a little aggrieved. Jiyu Jingze said, "What's the matter?" Mo Hualing said, "Why didn't you call me for the past 2 days?" Jiyu Jingze said, "I was accompanying Lin Che home to attend the wedding." "What?" Mo Hualing said angrily, "Are you ignoring me because of her?" Jiyu Jingze could hear the disdain and disgust in Mo Hualing's tone toward Lin Che. He frowned, feeling a little unhappy. "Hualing, this has nothing to do with her. I was the one who had to get married, and she was the one who was dragged into this marriage by me. Mo Huiling's heart ached as she looked at Jiyu Jingze. She knew that she had been a little rash just now and that her words weren't very pleasing. She pursed her lips, tugged at his sleeve, and said, "But I don't like her at all." Jiyu Jingze understood that it was natural for her to have emotions. He said, "I know, but I just want to say that it's all my fault." "It's not her fault." Mo Huiling pouted and looked at him. "I hate it even more when you keep speaking up for her. Jingze, I'm just too lonely. Whenever I'm alone, I'll think about how you two might be together. How you two are husband and wife, living the kind of life that we've always wanted to live in the past, spending time together day and night. It's plain and warm. Do you understand? I can't help but let my imagination run wild." Jiyu Jingze's heart ached. Mo Huiling said, "Ever since you got sick, we've been insisting on being together, but your family doesn't allow me to be with you. I'm under a lot of pressure, you know?" Jiyu Jingze understood that she had endured a lot for him. Mo Huiling cried. With tears streaming down her face, she said, "Can you accompany me to the villa for a walk?" Jiyu Jingze sighed. "Okay." The two of them drove together to the villa by the river. This was Jiyu Jingze's villa. The scenery was great, and the small wooden villa looked very cozy. Mo Huiling was in a much better mood when she arrived. She took off her coat and watched as Jiyu Jingze prepared the wood outside, preparing to start the fireplace. Smelling the fragrance of the wood and watching a movie warmly made one feel extremely happy. Mo Huiling looked at Jiyu Jingze kneeling on the ground on one knee and seriously tending to the wood. His arms were strong and swollen, and he looked extremely sexy. She couldn't help but stare at him in a daze. Chapter 48. Jiyu Jingze raised his head and saw Mo Huiling lying there in a suggestive position. He took a glance and didn't think much of it. After all, they had grown up together and played together since they were young. They were very familiar with each other. But then, he suddenly saw Mo Huiling's chest. It was bulging and lying there like a small hill. Although it looked big, it was a little unnatural. He hadn't noticed it before. But now, he suddenly remembered Lin Che's words. Fake breasts can be seen immediately. They won't fall apart even if you lie down. They still look bulging. Could it be that Mo Huiling had done breast surgery before? But he didn't remember her mentioning it. Actually, Jiyu Jingze wasn't against women having plastic surgery. As long as she liked it, he didn't care. It was human nature to pursue beautiful things. But he had never heard Mo Huiling mention it before. He looked at Mo Huiling and asked curiously, "Huiling, when did you have plastic surgery?" Mo Huiling immediately puffed out her chest a little. She looked at her chest unnaturally and touched her chin. She had done some plastic surgery before. It was normal for her to have plastic surgery now. But of course, she didn't want Jiyu Jingze to know about it. She had done it secretly. Every time, she would find an opportunity to stay abroad for a period of time and only come back after the surgery was done. A man like Jiyu Jingze was too busy with his business. Of course, he didn't pay much attention to such things. So until now, he hadn't asked why she suddenly, I didn't. Why did you suddenly ask? Jiyu Jingze glanced at her. Feeling that it was indecent, he didn't look at her again. No, I just suddenly asked. She looked down at her chest. It should be very natural. Of course, she chose the most expensive place and used the best materials. She found the most famous doctor and spent a lot of money on a pair of C-cup cups. She thought that Jiyu Jingze wouldn't be able to tell. She smiled and said, "My body is naturally beautiful. I haven't had it done anywhere. Are you thinking that it's too perfect?" Jiyu Jingze didn't know what to say. He just smiled and said, "Yeah, you have a great figure." Mo Huiling said, "Of course. I usually pay attention to exercise. I often do yoga and I also do skincare. People think that my skin is especially good. I have a perfect figure. This is also because my mother was a beauty when she was young. I'm like my mother, so I'm equally beautiful. Don't you think I'm beautiful too?" Jiyu Jingze looked at her face and smiled. "Yes, You are very beautiful. However, when he looked at her face, he felt that it was a little strange. If she looked like her mother, she should have red phoenix eyes. Her eyes were not so big, and her double eyelids were not so wide. The most important thing was that her chin was a little too sharp. Her mother was a famous round-faced beauty. But he didn't say anything. Jiyu Jingze looked at Mo Hualing and thought that her skin was not bad, but Lin Che's skin became even whiter and more tender. He didn't know why, but he couldn't help but recall Lin Che's porcelain-like skin. She was so fair that many women couldn't compare. Perhaps it was because her skin was too white, so even though her face wasn't particularly exquisite, she still looked like a porcelain doll, giving off a delicate feeling. Jingze, I'm talking to you. What are you thinking about? Mo Hualing shouted and sat there unhappily. Jiyu Jingze stood up and said, Nothing. I'm thinking that you don't have to be so harsh on yourself. I like you not because you're thin, but because you're beautiful no matter what you look like. Because he still remembered that when she was young, she wore a little princess costume and stumbled to him. She said, Brother Jingze, no one will play with you. I'll play with you. At that time, he felt that he would definitely treat her well. However, now that he looked at Mo Hualing, he vaguely felt that Lin Che was right. Her breasts must have been faked. But Mo Hualing didn't admit it and even told so many lies. Jiyu Jingze understood that everyone loved beauty. She didn't want to tell him that maybe it was because she really hoped that her body was real and natural. But Jiyu Jingze didn't care about this. He was just a little concerned that Mo Hualing would lie. But he still didn't expose her. He thought that she had her own reasons. Xiao Xiao didn't say anything else. He fixed the fireplace. Because the weather wasn't cold, the fire wasn't very hot. He just enjoyed the feeling. The two of them sat on the sofa. Jiyu Jingze turned on the TV and took out the remote control. Just as he was about to switch to the movie CD, he saw a piece of news. After Jiyu Jingyu admitted to his relationship, the crew did not say anything. In fact, they became stricter with the management of visiting the set. Before this, Jiyu Jingyu had never been involved in any scandals with any female stars. So, everyone is still optimistic about his relationship. The TV screen was showing Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che. It was very eye-catching. Mo Hualing immediately recognized Jiyu Jingyu. What's going on? Why is Jingyu with Lin Che? Jiyu Jingze's face darkened even more when he heard the word together. Mo Hualing saw it and thought that he was angry. She said in an even more serious tone, This Lin Che is too indecent. How could he mess around with your brother? How shameful. Jiyu Jingze said, This has nothing to do with Lin Che. Upon hearing this, Mo Hualing turned around and said speechlessly, There's no smoke without fire. How could it have nothing to do with him? I believe that Lin Che isn't that kind of person, he said seriously. Mo Hualing snorted and laughed. You believe him? That's too naive. I've seen too many uncultured women like him. They will do anything for money, not to mention the entertainment industry. Enough. Jiyu Jingze stood up from his seat. Mo Hualing was stunned. Then, she looked at Jiyu Jingze angrily. She stood up and cried out with tears in her eyes, You shouted at me, Jiyu Jingze. Are you shouting at me because of this woman? Jiyu Jingze's face froze. He looked at Mo Hualing and said, I'm not shouting at you because of her. Jingyu is also in the entertainment industry, but he's not that kind of person, and neither is Lin Che. There must be a reason for this. Jiyu Jingze stood up. He didn't want to stay any longer. He picked up his clothes and said, I'm going to deal with this. You're going now? Mo Hualing said unhappily, You said you'd accompany me. Jiyu Jingze said, Hualing, if this news is seen by our family, they'll definitely make a fuss. I have to deal with it as soon as possible. Mo Hualing gritted her teeth. But thinking about it, she could only stomp her feet gloomily. I don't care. You have to make it up to me in the future. It's not easy for you to come with me, and you're leaving now. Jiyu Jingze sighed. He wasn't in the mood to talk about this. He smiled at her and said perfunctorily, Okay, I'll make it up to you in the future. Only then did Mo Hualing force a smile, but in her heart, she only wanted to dismember this hindrance, Lin Che, into 1,000 pieces. Chapter 49. Jiyu Jingze quickly returned home. Qin Hao was waiting at the door. When he saw Jiyu Jingze, he said in a low voice, "Sir, this was caused by third young master's Weibo post." Although he didn't say it explicitly, the news reports are speculating that third young master is. Jiyu Jingze turned his head. Following what? Confessing to Madam. Was this a joke? This was ridiculous. Jiyu Jingze's eyes darkened. His furrowed brows were like wrinkled clothes. One hill after another, they gathered together. Jiyu Jingze could see many people commenting on Jiyu Jingyu's Weibo post. "I think the two of you look quite compatible. If you want to be together, then so be it. This Lin Che is quite pleasing to the eye. At least he's not like those internet celebrities who all look the same. Not bad. As long as it's Jingyu's decision, we will agree. I wish you all the best. Have a good life together." Jiyu Jingze turned off his phone and looked up. His dark expression was so heavy that people didn't dare to look him in the eye. "Sir, I didn't ask you to stop all the news about third young master." Qin Hao's back was covered in cold sweat. "Sir, I did stop it. But this is the first time third young master has announced his relationship, so the news companies are boldly reporting it." Relationship? Jiyu Jingze looked at him coldly. Qin Hao knew that he had said the wrong thing, so he quickly said, "Of course the reporters don't know. Third young master is just joking." Jiyu Jingze raised his hand to silence them. He pinched his forehead and walked in. Lin Che naturally didn't know about this. She came back from the set, exhausted. She wanted to cook a bowl of instant noodles to warm up her injured body and mind. She had just finished cooking when she heard the door open. Jiyu Jingze was back. When she came in, she saw Lin Che holding a big bowl of noodles and raising her head. Her clear eyes carried a smile, and she wore a light yellow apron with a little lace on it. She looked very cute, and it reflected on her fair and tender little face, making her feel warm and comfortable. "Jiyu Jingze, you're back." She put down the noodles with a smile. She felt her fingertips burning uncomfortably, so she pinched her earlobes. Jiyu Jingze glanced at the bowl of noodles in her hand and said to her, "I'm hungry too." "Ah." Lin Che looked into his eyes and said, "Then I'll make you a bowl too." "Okay," he said, calmly put down the coat in his hand, and sat down. Lin Che curled his lips. He really wasn't polite at all. She returned to the kitchen, picked up the kitchen knife, and began to chop the vegetables, the ham, and the eggs. Jiyu Jingze looked at her and felt a little warm for a moment. It was the same for an ordinary family. The husband waited at the dining table while the wife cooked in the kitchen. The aroma wafted in the air. Lin Che brought the noodles to the dining table. Jiyu Jingze looked at it and asked her, "Why do you have more ingredients than me?" Lin Che said, "Not much." Jiyu Jingze didn't say anything. He took the noodles she had cooked and said, "I'll eat yours." "Hey!" Just as Lin Che was about to reach out his hand to stop him, he realized that he had already grabbed the noodles and was eating them in big bites. Lin Che could only lower her head and suck on her fingers. "I've just eaten a bite of that noodles." Jiyu Jingze looked up at her with his dark eyes. Lin Che felt uncomfortable being stared at. She quickly spread her hands and said, "What's wrong? I didn't ask you to eat it. You're the one who is being calculative." Jiyu Jingze reached out and took her noodles. He took a big bite of it too. "Hey, Jiyu Jingze, you, husband and wife should treat each other fairly, right?" Jiyu Jingze still had the nerve to speak logically. Lin Che said gloomily, "I'm not as bad as you. I didn't do it on purpose." Jiyu Jingze only looked up and harumphed. Lin Che's eyes moved. She smiled and arched her eyebrows. "It's just exchanging saliva. Actually, it doesn't matter. You eat mine and I eat yours, right?" Jiyu Jingze's face darkened. Why did his words sound so ambiguous? Lin Che said, "And exchanging saliva is said to be good for health and can prevent colds. Come, let's continue." Jiyu Jingze harumphed and looked at Lin Che. "If that's the case, there's a more direct way of exchanging saliva. Why don't we not go through the trouble?" "What?" Lin Che looked at him, confused. His gaze, which was full of hidden meaning, shifted to her full, pearl-like lips. Lin Che felt it immediately and suddenly understood what he meant. She couldn't help but blush. She looked at him, blushing and unable to say a word. Jiyu Jingze looked at her standing there, panting with anger but unable to reply. Then he pursed his lips and smiled happily. However, his gaze still couldn't help but drift towards her lips. Feeling that she was staring at him, he shifted his gaze away discreetly. Lin Che harumphed and sat down. Jiyu Jingze ate and looked at her. Lin Che, don't you have anything to say to me? When he came back and saw that she was still making noodles with great interest, he couldn't help but be angry in his heart. Lin Che said, "What is it?" Jiyu Jingze pulled a long face. "Like a scandal or something." Lin Che suddenly reacted. "Oh, you mean that? But it's just a scandal. I don't know what to do. Do you want to tell Jiyu Jingyu about our relationship? How about this? Jingyu has a conflict with his family. If he finds out, he might announce it in a fit of anger. Do you want our relationship to be known to the public?" "Ah, of course not." Lin Che shook her head hurriedly. Was she crazy? If she announced that she was married to Jiyu Jingze now, the news would spread like wildfire. How could she still put on a good act? Jiyu Jingze saw that she looked disgusted and said no without hesitation. He didn't know why, but he also felt suffocated. "You don't want others to know about our relationship that much?" he asked. Lin Che said, "Of course not. We're going to get a divorce sooner or later. By then, I'll be married for the second time. Moreover, I still want to put on a good act. The company doesn't know that I'm already married. The contract says that I can't get married for 3 years. Isn't this a breach of contract?" Jiyu Jingze looked at her deeply before he lowered his head and picked up the noodles to eat. Jiyu Jingze said, "Although you don't want our relationship to be exposed, shouldn't you stop the scandal with Jiyu Jingyu?" "This. I promised. I really didn't know. This." She didn't know why Jiyu Jingyu was so crazy. Why did he post on Weibo? She thought that Jiyu Jingyu was a rebellious child. He didn't have any scandals because his company was too strict with him, so she wanted to create some scandals for fun. It was Jiyu Jingyu who did it. "It has nothing to do with me." That's all she could say. Jiyu Jingze said, "I know he's rebellious, but he's definitely not an unreasonable person. If you tell him clearly that you don't like him, he'll respect you. I told him, but he didn't want to delete the Weibo post." Lin Che begged him to delete the Weibo post whenever she saw him, but Jiyu Jingyu only teased her on purpose and didn't face her problem at all. Jiyu Jingze said, "You have to reject him directly and ask him to stop harassing you. If you don't know how to do that, I'll reject him for you." "Ah," he said, "give me your phone. I'll send him a message for you." He held out his hand with a cold face. Chapter 50. Looking at his serious face, Lin Che thought that he was angry because he couldn't take it anymore. She took out her phone and looked at it. She didn't want to give it to him. Jiyu Jingze didn't want to be a man at all. He snatched her phone. "Hey, what are you doing?" Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze gloomily. She took the phone and scrolled through it seriously. Lin Che rushed over and said, "I don't have his phone number. We only contact each other through WeChat." She took back her phone and logged into WeChat. "I can reply to him myself." Then, she thought for a moment and replied, "Jiyu Jingyu, I don't think it's good to lie to the public. Your Weibo post is too misleading. Your fans all think that you're in love, but it's not true. I think it's better for you to deny it." Jiyu Jingze frowned as he watched her write. Sometimes, he frowned, and sometimes, he was serious. He paused and snatched her phone impatiently. "Hey, what are you doing?" she shouted and tried to snatch it back. Jiyu Jingze frowned even harder when he saw the message. "Is this a rejection? We're discussing it." Jiyu Jingze glared at her and said, "Well." Lin Che didn't want to be too forceful. She didn't want to offend Jiyu Jingyu. Jiyu Jingze snorted and said, "I'll write it for you." Lin Che instinctively thought that he wouldn't reply with anything nice, so she rushed over to snatch it. Jiyu Jingze stood up immediately. He was tall and raised his phone. Lin Che was too short to reach him, so she jumped up to snatch it. Jiyu Jingze stood there calmly and quickly wrote, Jiyu Jingyu, I'm actually married. I love my husband very much. If you do this, I'll feel sorry for him. So please don't make false statements that will easily cause misunderstandings. It's good for both of us. Lin Che saw a string of words from the side, but it was too blurry and she could only see a bit. Lin Che became even more anxious and said, Jiyu Jingze, give it to me. I want to send it myself. I don't need your help. Jiyu Jingze didn't listen to her and continued typing quickly. Jiyu Jingze was sending when he saw that Jiyu Jingyu replied to his message. He said, You didn't lie about your marriage just to avoid me, did you? Jiyu Jingze's lips curled up. Do you need me to get you some papers? I'm already married. Besides, I'm really disgusted by your pestering. Why are you disgusted? What's wrong with me? Why are you so annoyed? Didn't you say that I'm a senior that you respect? She actually said that to Jiyu Jingyu. Jiyu Jingze couldn't help but feel depressed. He replied directly, Those were just casual compliments. I thought you could understand them, but you still keep pestering me. Don't tell me you like me. If that's the case, then I do like you. Jiyu Jingze almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This Jiyu Jingyu really wanted to die. Jiyu Jingze said straightforwardly, I'm sorry. I don't like people like you. I like men like my husband, who are mature and steady and give me a sense of security. From the moment I saw him, I fell in love with him at first sight. I won't marry anyone but him. Other than him, I have no interest in any other man, especially a pretty boy like you. He had just clicked send when Lin Che finally climbed onto the table and hugged his neck. She jumped onto his back, leaned on him, and snatched the phone. Jiyu Jingze, give me back my phone, she shouted and grabbed his hand to snatch it back. Jiyu Jingze felt that he wasn't done yet. He wanted to see how Jiyu Jingyu would reply, but he felt that Lin Che was really anxious. She bit his arm directly. Jiyu Jingze felt pain. This damned stupid woman. She actually bit him. He screamed and let go of his hand. With a clatter, the phone fell to the ground. Lin Che exclaimed, Jiyu Jingze, I'll kill you. Jiyu Jingze felt that she was about to fall. Thinking of her leg that had just recovered, he quickly reached out and grabbed her legs from behind. She didn't need a wheelchair just now and had to walk carefully. Did she forget the pain now that her scar had healed? He immediately carried her on his back, not letting her move. Be careful. What if you fall and fall? Lin Che was still anxious to find her phone. She couldn't care less about him. She didn't know that the real gold and silver on her chest was rubbing against his back. He could feel the tender flesh pressing against his body. It was so obvious. Jiyu Jingze, don't move. I told you to behave. Jiyu Jingze's whole body was burning hot. He felt that his whole body had tensed up. No, I don't want it. Jiyu Jingze, why did you snatch my phone and smash it? You have to pay for my phone. As she said that, she hugged his neck. However, she felt his whole body tremble. It was then that she realized, she was being carried on his back, and his hands were supporting her bottom. His large hands were very strong, and his arms were very tight. Her chest was rubbing against his back, and her face was rubbing against his cheek. She could see his ear when she turned her head, and she could smell the distinct masculine scent on his neck. She let go of his hands and coughed dryly. She didn't do it on purpose. Jiyu Jingze finally let go of her. She stood on the ground awkwardly and didn't dare to look into his eyes. Jiyu Jingze felt that the anger in his heart finally dissipated after a while. He looked at the woman in front of him angrily. For a moment, he really wanted to strangle her. Lin Che naturally felt embarrassed too. It was as if her body still had some of his warmth. It was so hot. It was a different kind of heat from a woman's. It lingered for a long time. At this moment, she suddenly remembered that the phone had fallen on the ground. She quickly picked it up and looked at it. The screen cracked from the impact. She raised her head gloomily. Puffing up her cheeks, she shouted, Jiyu Jingze, you have to pay for it. Jiyu Jingze looked at her indifferently. He snorted and glanced at Lin Che's phone screen. She took out her WeChat and saw that Jiyu Jingyu had indeed replied to her. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I was so annoying. I won't disturb you like this again. There was another message below. Also, I'm not a gigolo. Lin Che really wanted to cry. She scrolled down and saw Jiyu Jingza's reply. She turned around and scolded, Jiyu Jingza, no one is as shameless as you. Who fell in love with you at first sight? Why else would you charm me? Wasn't it to sleep with me? Lin Che was actually speechless. Lin Che only felt that she must have offended Jiyu Jingyu. In the future, they would be in the same crew, and there was still the publicity period after filming. What should she do? Not to mention Jiyu Jingyu's influence in the industry. If he wanted to take revenge on Lin Che, would Lin Che still have a good life in the future? Chapter 51. Get this straight. The person I wanted to drug was Jiyu Jingyu, not you. The more Lin Che thought about it, the angrier she got. What she didn't notice was that her words successfully froze Jiyu Jingza's handsome face like a block of ice. Say that again, Jiyu Jingza suddenly said in a low voice. Lin Che heard that something was wrong with the voice. She looked up and saw Jiyu Jingza's dark and distinct face slowly approaching her as if it was covered in frost. Lin Che was stunned for a moment. Oh yeah, that was his biological brother. He couldn't just drug him. Lin Che quickly said, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't really want to drug him. He told me that the drug can make people sleep. I just wanted to take a few pictures and get lost. Who knew that he lied to me and you became so brave after taking it? Brave? Jiyu Jingza's dark eyes flashed. Although she was angry that she would rather have Jiyu Jingyu fall for her, her words somehow eased the anger in her heart. Smiling faintly, he said, Are you very brave? Lin Che was stunned again. Her mouth was half open, revealing a few white teeth. This, she felt a strong masculine aura slowly approaching. In just a moment, it had already enveloped her tightly. She then realized that Jiyu Jingza was getting closer and closer without her noticing. Even his breath could be placed on her cheek. His long and strong fingers pinched her chin. He lowered his head and smiled wickedly. Lin Che quickly said, So what if I'm very brave? Is it wrong? This is a compliment. Although I don't know if it's because of the drug, but... Jiyu Jingza's face darkened. This idiot woman, she really didn't know how to speak. Lin Che said, Are you angry because of this? Or is there something wrong with you? Is your illness acting up? Sensing that his gaze was very strange, as if it was going to burn her, she asked hurriedly. Jiyu Jingza leaned forward slightly. His eyes were dark, and there was a soft light between his brows. He lowered his head to look at her slightly moving lips. Her tongue was small, and it looked very cute and exquisite. The light lip lines were rosy and pleasant, which set off the beautiful skin on her face. Lin Che stared at his eyes, which were growing deeper and deeper. He felt as though his entire body was being sucked in. He wanted to escape, but his footsteps were rooted to the spot, and he was unable to move. His rough fingertips gently caressed her lips. Looking into her clear eyes, he said, Let me tell you, you can't praise a man for his bravery. Ah! Although this is the truth. But this will still cause a man to misunderstand, understand? He gently tapped her lips. Lin Che felt his lips go numb. He quickly pushed Jiyu Jingza away, turned around and snorted, then ran inside. After closing the door, Lin Che slowly calmed himself down. Thinking of Jiyu Jingza's charming look, she felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Didn't he know that a man's seduction could be fatal? Especially a man as sexy as him. Lin Che thought that she was a normal woman who had just gone through puberty. Did she also have physical needs? What was she supposed to do when he seduced her so openly? After an unknown period of time, Lin Che finally calmed down from his emotions. The next day, Lin Che's movie was being filmed in full swing. They were preparing to finish it quickly and release it during the summer holidays. By then, it would definitely increase the viewership ratings. Thus, the filming had been very intense for the past few days. Lin Che saw Jiyu Jingyu coming in from afar. Thinking of yesterday's incident, She felt so guilty that she didn't dare to raise her head. However, she saw Jiyu Jingyu still looking at Lin Che from afar and smiling slightly, as though nothing had happened. Lin Che's heart was pounding. Sitting there, he gulped down a few mouthfuls of water. Then, he heard Jiyu Jingyu say above his head, "Hey, what's wrong with you? You're not even looking at me." Lin Che almost spat out the water in her mouth. She looked up at Jiyu Jingyu and said, I'm fine." Jiyu Jingyu saw the unconcealable guilt on her face. She looked at her deeply before sitting down and saying, "Hey, are you really married? No matter how I look at you, it doesn't look like it. How old are you?" Lin Che still hated Jiyu Jingza to the core, but he could only say guiltily, "I'm sorry. I was too excited yesterday. That's why I said so many harsh words. I didn't mean it that way. I'm married. Getting married has nothing to do with my age. It's more about whether I met the right person to marry." Lin Che was speechless when he heard Jiyu Jingza's words. "I'm sorry. I was too excited yesterday." Jiyu Jingyu paused slightly. Looking at Lin Che, she sighed and nodded. "All right, since that's the case, I won't force you. I'll give you my blessings, but am I really a gigolo?" Lin Che hurriedly shook her head. No. Of course you're not." Jiyu Jingyu frowned and said, "Is it because you don't like people like me that you turned a blind eye to me from the beginning?" It's really because I'm married that I turn a blind eye to men." It's not that I turn a blind eye to you. I just feel that I'm full of respect for you. Other than that, I don't have any improper thoughts. You're as tall as my father. I'm filled with awe. Really." In order to redeem her image in his heart, Lin Che begged him not to vent his anger on her. She had really tried her best. Jiyu Jingyu could only shake his head speechlessly when he saw how exaggerated she was. It was so fake that it was funny, but not annoying. "Who wants to be your father?" Jiyu Jingyu said, "Don't worry. I'll delete the Weibo post and won't mention it again. You don't have to hide from me because of this. I'm curious. What kind of god is your husband? Why do you like him so much at such a young age? Is he really so mature and steady that I can't stop wanting him?" Lin Che wanted to say, "Then you should ask your own brother why he would say such shameless words." But thinking about it, Jiyu Jingza was indeed much more steady and mature than Jiyu Jingyu. "It's no big deal. You'll meet him sooner or later." "All right." Jiyu Jingyu patted her shoulder and smiled at her. After that, Jiyu Jingyu deleted the Weibo post very quickly. Following that, the management company also released a statement, saying that it wasn't a confession like the rumors said, but was just something he said to vent his emotions. Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che were good friends, and they hoped that people wouldn't tarnish their friendship because of this. Chapter 52. Some people wanted to see Lin Che make a fool of herself because Jiyu Jingyu had denied being in a relationship. Others thought that Lin Che was his friend, even though she had said that she wasn't in a relationship. In the past, anyone who used Jiyu Jingyu to create a scandal would definitely be mercilessly slapped in the face by Jiyu Jingyu. This time, Jiyu Jingyu was very calm and didn't seem to want to slap them in the face at all. Lin Che returned home while the filming was still ongoing. She saw Jiyu Jingza sitting there, looking straight at the computer. Jiyu Jingza seemed to be a man who could be straight no matter what. However, because of this, he seemed extremely tough and his figure was extremely good-looking. Lin Che stopped when she came in. She looked at Jiyu Jingza's slender fingers. They looked like they were very suitable for dancing on the piano and walking on the keyboard. They looked as elegant as a noble ballet dancer. She couldn't help but be a little dazed. It was said that men were the most handsome when they were serious. Moreover, this was Jiyu Jingza, who was already extremely handsome. When Jiyu Jingza raised his head and saw Lin Che standing at the door, he suddenly shouted, "Are you stupid, Lin Che?" She stood at the door in a daze, thinking about something. She actually laughed out loud. Jiyu Jingza thought that he had never seen anyone dumber than her. However, when he looked at the computer and saw that the website showed that Jiyu Jingyu had denied being in a relationship, he couldn't help but smile. He looked at Lin Che a lot more pleasing to the eye. So he smiled and waved. Don't stand there like a fool. Come in. He closed the website and said. Lin Che smiled embarrassedly. She didn't expect to be stunned by a man. Her ears were burning. She didn't dare to look at Jiyu Jingza's deep and sexy eyes. She quickly said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I'll go in and rest first." Not feeling well? Jiyu Jingza's brows furrowed, and the smile on his face froze. Seeing Lin Che walk in, he quickly followed. What's wrong, Lin Che? Are you not feeling well? Seeing Jiyu Jingza walk over, Lin Che panicked and said randomly, "It's nothing. It's just, maybe I'm too tired." Jiyu Jingza followed her into the bedroom. He looked at Lin Che and said, "Is the injury on your leg still not healed?" Although it had been a while, she had been working too hard recently. She went out to film every day and stayed up late. Although the wound wasn't big, it was still an important part. "Take off your pants and let me see if there's anything wrong with your wound." Jiyu Jingza squatted down and was about to take off Lin Che's pants. Other than attending events and wearing costumes, Lin Che usually wore a simple pair of jeans and sneakers when he went out. At this moment, his jeans were sticking to his body, and it was impossible to tell what was wrong with his legs. Jiyu Jingza didn't think of anything else. He was anxious, so he asked her to take off her pants. However, Lin Che's face turned red all the way to his neck. "What do you mean take off my pants? I'm a grown man." Seeing that Lin Che didn't move, Jiyu Jingza started to undress her anxiously. "Quick, take it off and see," he said, his big hand grabbing the top of her jeans, and he was about to take it off. Lin Che panicked. She pressed his hand down and said with a red face, "Jiyu Jingza, what's wrong with you?" Why would I take off my pants?" Jiyu Jingza said, "How can I not take a look? If you feel uncomfortable, just tell me. The arteries are no joke." However, when she raised her head, she saw Lin Che's completely red face. His narrow face now looked like a ripe tomato that could explode with a pinch. Jiyu Jingza then realized that his hand that was being pressed down was holding onto her pants. His expression changed, and an awkward expression appeared on his face. "Well, take it off if you want. I'm just looking at your wound. It's not like you want to do anything. Why are you so anxious?" he said, hiding the embarrassment on his face. Lin Che was so angry that she couldn't breathe. She looked at him and said, "But I can't take off my pants. I'm not wearing anything underneath." "Hey, I'm your husband anyway. What's wrong with looking? Didn't you say it yourself? It's not like you haven't seen it before." But what did you say? You're not wearing anything underneath." Jiyu Jingza felt that something wasn't right. He frowned. Didn't that mean that what was inside was? Lin Che blushed again. "No, I'm only wearing underwear." Jiyu Jingza looked at her pants and said speechlessly, "That's covered. Why can't I look? Do you think I want to look at your legs?" Lin Che said, "It's fine if you don't want to see it. I didn't say I wanted to show it to you. Besides, it's not because of my leg injury. I'm just tired. Can you go out and let me rest for a while? I don't want you to sleep here tonight. You're disturbing me and I can't sleep well." Jiyu Jingza looked at her strangely. "I don't make much noise, and I sleep much better than you. How am I disturbing you? Your existence is a disturbance. Anyway, can I sleep alone tonight? Your family won't say anything if we split the room occasionally. Not every husband and wife stays together every day." Although Jiyu Jingza felt strange, seeing how anxious Lin Che was, he thought that maybe she was really not used to living with him. Maybe she was tired of living with him these days. She was too tired today, so she burst out. So he thought for a while and said, "Okay then. I'll stay out tonight. You have a good rest." Seeing that Jiyu Jingza really went to get the blanket and walked out, she heaved a sigh of relief. Really? Lin Che sat down on the bed. In his heart, he thought, this Jiyu Jingza is really a monster, a monster. Lin Che thought that maybe he was really old and couldn't control his hormones anymore. That was why he was drooling and blushing at Jiyu Jingza. Luckily, in the next few days, he was busy with the filming. He spent more time at the set than at home, so he didn't have time to worry about Jiyu Jingza. The TV series was finally finished. Ji Jingyu generously said that he would treat everyone to a hotel for a night. They wouldn't go home until they were drunk, and if they were drunk, they would stay at the hotel. Anyway, it was just to have a good time. Lin Che called Yu Minmin over and prepared to bring Sister Yu to have some fun. Yu Minmin thought that she could curry favor with the director this way, so she immediately agreed happily. On the way, Yu Minmin said to Lin Che while driving, "If we become famous in the future, we should get a nanny van." Lin Che was still a small-time actor. He didn't even have a car, let alone a nanny van. Lin Che was also very grateful to Yu Minmin, who drove Lin Che everywhere when she was free. Yu Minmin said, "This time, Ji Jingyu is treating us to a club under the Ji Corporation. I wonder if we'll meet Ji Jingza or something." "Phut." Lin Che choked. Yu Minmin said, "What's wrong with you?" Lin Che said, "Why would I meet Ji Jingza?" Yu Minmin said, "Of course I'm going to curry favor with him. Your sister Yu loves to ride on rich people's coattails. I can't miss such a good opportunity." Chapter 53. Lin Che looked at Yu Minmin speechlessly. After spending some time together, he felt that although Yu Minmin was snobbish, she wasn't that annoying. Maybe it was because both of them wanted to show their power to each other and felt that she didn't pretend or defend herself, so they didn't find her annoying. Although Yu Minmin didn't treat her very well in the past, he wasn't that bad. It was just that Lin Che wasn't popular, so he didn't have many opportunities. Now that Lin Che was considered an artist under her management, their relationship started to improve. Soon, they arrived at the clubhouse that Ji Jingyu mentioned. From the outside, they could tell that it wasn't an ordinary clubhouse. It looked like a resort with all the functions. Below it was the entertainment area, and above it was the hotel. There were food, karaoke, games, and bars. From the outside, it looked like a huge skyscraper, which made people feel that it was high class. The crew came in groups of 2s and 3s to congratulate each other and celebrate the completion of the TV series. Lin Che and Yu Minmin sat in a place where there weren't many people. They chatted leisurely. When Ji Jingyu arrived, there was a loud commotion around them. Lin Che raised his hands and applauded. However, he saw Ji Jingyu greet the crowd and come to Lin Che's side. Lin Che's expression was very blank. He looked at Ji Jingyu and felt a little strange. Ji Jingyu, on the other hand, had a calm expression on his face as he sat down beside Lin Che. Lin Che said, "Why are you sitting here? There were important seats for the main character and the main cast. Why didn't she sit there?" Ji Jingyu looked at her and said, "It's quiet here. I like quiet. What's wrong?" "Fine, as long as you're happy." It was the first time that Yu Minmin sat with such a big star, so she couldn't help but feel nervous. After all, although there were many stars nowadays, there were only a few A-list stars. When Ji Jingyu saw her, he turned his head and smiled at her. Yu Minmin looked flattered and hurriedly smiled back at him. Ji Jingyu glanced at her and continued talking to Lin Che. Lin Che couldn't reject him even if he wanted to. It wasn't a big deal, but Lin Che felt a little embarrassed when he saw everyone looking at him in surprise. That was why he wanted to get rid of them. When Lin Li walked in, she saw Ji Jingyu sitting with Lin Che at first glance. It was hard for her not to see it, because everyone was looking over there and discussing it. It was so obvious. Lin Li felt suffocated when she thought of how her engagement ceremony could have been on the headlines for a few days and made people envious of her. However, Lin Che was taken advantage of because of Ji Jingyu's Weibo post. Lin Che was really proud of himself recently. Wherever he went, he didn't forget to attract attention. When Mu Feiran came in, everyone came to congratulate her. Lin Che looked at Mu Feiran enviously and said, "I wish I could be as imposing as Sister Feiran one day." Mu Feiran brought along a group of assistants and other staff members and followed behind them. The moment they entered, they gave off an imposing aura. Ji Jingyu also took a look and said with a smile, "One day, you will too." Lin Che looked at Ji Jingyu and said, "You really know how to talk. Forget it, it's still far away. Believe in yourself. You have to walk your path step by step." When Feiran was so poor that she couldn't even afford to buy food, She didn't expect that she would achieve what she has today. Is that so? Did Sister Feiran have that kind of achievement? Of course. Otherwise, everyone is a star from the moment they are born. Of course, some people were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Lin Che glanced at Jiyu Jingyu. Both he and Jiyu Jingze were such geniuses and were envied by others from the moment they were born. Jiyu Jingyu understood Lin Che's intention at first glance and said with a smile, "Do you think you will be happy if you don't have to worry about whether you eat or not? Everyone has their own troubles, and the Jiyu family is the same. While enjoying these privileges, there are also more responsibilities on my shoulders. That's why I'm too lazy to go back to the Jiyu family. Look at me, I'm so carefree now, right?" Lin Che couldn't help but think of Jiyu Jingze. Did Jiyu Jingze have troubles too? That's right. First of all, he had to accept a marriage that he didn't want. The more she thought about it, the more pitiful Jiyu Jingze felt. He was fine, but he got this disease. His perfect life had been ruined because of Lin Che. "Hey, I'm talking to you. Who are you thinking of?" Jiyu Jingyu couldn't help pinching her nose when he saw that she was daydreaming. "Oh, no. I'm not thinking of anyone." Lin Che muttered guiltily. Everyone had a great time at the wrap-up party, and it was also very crazy. After the wrap-up, there would be a break for a period of time, and the production of the TV series would start in full swing. When it was about to start broadcasting, everyone would gather together to promote the TV series and embark on the road of running publicity. Everyone drank a lot of wine, including Lin Che. When she came back from the bathroom, she found that no one else was there. Even Yu Minmin had disappeared. Lin Che had to drink for a while. Then she heard someone say behind her, "Mr. President is here." But this is the Jiyu family's clubhouse. There's nothing wrong with Mr. President coming from his own clubhouse. Isn't this Jiyu Jingze's place? They are brothers. What's the difference between this place and his own? Didn't you see the scene just now? He's probably going to stay upstairs, so there's a curfew upstairs. No one is allowed to enter. Jiyu Jingyu came back. Lin Che pulled him and asked, "They said that the president is here. Is he your eldest brother?" Jiyu Jingyu nodded indifferently. "Yes. What's wrong with him coming?" "Nothing. Your family is really... Are all of your brothers outstanding? You like it? If you like it, you can join the Jiyu family. I guarantee that you'll find it unique," Jiyu Jingyu said with a smile. Lin Che lowered her head guiltily. She thought to herself that she was half a member of the Jiyu family now. Jiyu Jingming had been the president for 3 years. His performance had been good and he was popular. Naturally, he had a lot of supporters wherever he went. Lin Che shook her head when she saw someone running out to see the president. She thought of something and asked, "Where's Sister Yu?" "Sister Yu? Your manager?" "I don't know. She seemed to be drunk just now. She went out and didn't come back." Jiyu Jingyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh. What if she ran upstairs and bumped into the president?" "You're done for." Lin Che thought gloomily. She couldn't be that unlucky. Chapter 54. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu. "How's the president's temper? Is he okay?" Jiyu Jingming was actually his biological brother. Lin Che thought that he should know about it. Jiyu Jingyu thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Well, think about it. How simple can he be if he's able to become the president? He looks cold on the outside, but he's even colder on the inside. He's a heartless and unscrupulous bastard who would do anything for power." Ah! Lin Che was shocked to the point of being shocked. The president looked pretty good on TV. When Jiyu Jingyu saw this, he laughed out loud. This Lin Che was just too funny at times. He was so silly. "Alright, I'm just kidding. He's actually a normal person. He's just a little eccentric, a little weird, a little difficult to deal with, a little difficult to get along with, a little. Why is everyone in the Jiyu family like this? Wasn't that comparable to Jiyu Jingze? Hey, what do you mean by our Jiyu family? Do you think I'm difficult to get along with?" "Oh, no, no." Lin Che almost spilled the beans. He quickly laughed dryly and said, Lin Che called Yu Minmin again and realized that no one picked up. When he called again, the phone was turned off. Lin Che was a little flustered, but he had no other choice. He wanted to go up and take a look, but he found that the top was indeed blocked. Lin Che had no choice but to go back and make plans. Anyway, Yu Minmin was an adult, so she probably wouldn't get lost. When he got home, Lin Che quickly found Jiyu Jingze. Although he had been avoiding him recently, he had to beg him now that something really happened. Jiyu Jingze, how's your relationship with the president? Lin Che asked hurriedly. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che. We're brothers. What do you think? Lin Che said hurriedly, my agent accidentally got lost when I was eating. I can't find her now, so I want you to do me a favor. Help me see if you can ask Mr. President if my agent broke into the building. Because there's martial law up there, I can't get through. I'm afraid that she'll be treated as a bad person and the president's security guards will arrest her. So that's what it was. Jiyu Jingze had been busy with work these days, but when he saw Lin Che, he suddenly remembered that he hadn't seen Lin Che for days. When he came back, she was either not back yet or staying at the set. The next morning, she ran out early in the morning. Now that he thought about it, she was busier than him. Jiyu Jingze said, have you been busy lately? Lin Che was stunned. Looking at Jiyu Jingze's indifferent expression, he glanced at him with a questioning look. Of course, Lin Che didn't dare to say that she was avoiding him on purpose. Lin Che rubbed his ear. Oh, yeah, I'm busy wrapping up the filming, and I might even be busy running promotions after that. What's wrong? Jiyu Jingze put his hands on the table and raised half of his body to look at Lin Che. Are you asking for my help? Lin Che nodded. Yes. If I help you, how are you going to thank me? Lin Che paused for a moment, then said, how would I know? You're so rich, you can get whatever you want. You don't lack anything. How would I have anything to give you? Jiyu Jingze smiled and waved for her to come over. Lin Che was under the eaves, so he had no choice but to lower his head and quickly jogged over. Jiyu Jingze said, do you know how to massage? Ah, I don't. Jiyu Jingze frowned. You don't know anything. How can you be a wife? You have to know how to massage to be a wife. Lin Che said speechlessly. Jiyu Jingze said, what else? What's the point of getting a wife? To spend money. You earn so much money. If I don't help you spend it, how are you going to spend it all? Lin Che said shamelessly. Jiyu Jingze looked at her. You only know how to talk nonsense. Come, help me massage my shoulders and beg me. I'll consider if I should help you. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze's smug expression and said hatefully, you're such an evil capitalist. You only know how to exploit poor people like me. Jiyu Jingze said, of course. I don't get up early if there's nothing to gain. I still have to call Jiyu Jingming. He's the president. Do you think ordinary people have this chance? You make it sound like you're so powerful. Isn't that your brother? Lin Che snorted angrily. However, seeing Jiyu Jingze tilting his head as if he was waiting for her to serve him, she could only walk behind him reluctantly. She squeezed his shoulders with both hands. His shoulders were really broad. Through his clothes, she could still feel his muscles. It was hard to pinch them. She couldn't help but think of his muscular body when he took off his clothes. The inverted triangle shape made her want to vomit blood. Her heart warmed. Looking at the back of his head, she felt a little restless. She didn't know what shampoo he used. His thick black hair was neat and clean, and it smelled really good. Really, an elegant man. No matter how she looked at him, he looked so good. Even the back of his head was very good looking. Jiyu Jingze said, continue massaging. Why aren't you moving? Lin Che then realized that she was staring at his back in a daze. She continued massaging a few more times and said, your shoulders are so tight. Is it because you're usually too busy with work? Jiyu Jingze said, of course. As a husband, I have to take care of the family. How can I not be tight? Lin Che burst out laughing. Hearing her laughter, Jiyu Jingze laughed as well. Her little hands were really weak. Although he could feel that she was using all her strength when she squeezed, he still didn't feel relaxed at all. Instead, it made him feel even tighter. It was because those little hands were too soft, and it made him feel like he couldn't bear to squeeze them. However, even so, he still couldn't bear to let her go. Feeling the gentle caress like a breeze, he smiled and said, "All right. Since you're so sincere, pass me the phone." Seeing that Jiyu Jingze had finally relented, Lin Che hurriedly passed him the phone. Jiyu Jingze quickly called, but the call didn't go through. Jiyu Jingze said, "Looks like he's busy." Lin Che's little face fell. Seeing that she was really anxious, Jiyu Jingze couldn't bear to tease her anymore. "I'll call his secretary." "Ah, really? Jiyu Jingze, you're the best." Lin Che's little face immediately broke into a smile. Jiyu Jingze looked at her and smiled. He picked up the phone and called again. This time, the call went through. Why isn't Mr. President answering the phone? Is he busy? On the phone, the person on the other end said in a low voice, replying to second young master, "Mr. President is already asleep." "Asleep?" "Yes." "Oh, okay. Can you help me ask if you've caught a drunk woman?" Replying to second young master, "No." "Okay. Send my regards to Mr. President." "Yes, second young master. I'll definitely report to you tomorrow morning." "Is there anything else, second young master?" "Nothing." He put down the phone and said to the expectant Lin Che, "They didn't catch anyone. Don't worry, your manager probably went back alone." Lin Che heaved a sigh of relief. "I was scared to death. I thought I'd be done for if I offended the president." Jiyu Jingze laughed. "You're such a coward. You even dared to offend me, and you're still afraid of the president." Chapter 55. Lin Che protested, "When did I offend you? You drugged me. Do you think that if you weren't lucky, you would still be standing in front of me?" Jiyu Jingze raised his eyebrows. He was still surprised that he had fallen for such a lousy trick. Lin Che understood what he was talking about and blushed. I don't know who will be the unlucky one. I'm still fine. I went from a free person to someone else's contract wife. I still have to look at you every day and endure your weird temper." Jiyu Jingze's face fell. She sounded aggrieved. He suddenly stood up and took a step forward. He pressed his hand against Lin Che's little face and moved closer. Seeing that her chin was very obedient, he reached out and pinched it before saying to her, "Say that again." Lin Che was startled by his cold, fragrant breath that suddenly approached her. She stared at his flirtatious action and her face was expressionless. She stared at him stiffly, feeling as if his lips were right in front of her. If she moved, she would be able to touch them at any time. Lin Che hurriedly pushed Jiyu Jingze's hand away. "Move away. We're so close. Isn't it hot?" Her cheeks were burning hot. She couldn't hold it in any longer and stepped on his foot. Her petite body squeezed out from his side and ran away without looking back. Ouch! Jiyu Jingze felt pain from being stepped on. This damned Lin Che had really used all her strength. Jiyu Jingze frowned as he looked at her back. "Well done, Lin Che. You've used me and now you're going to turn against me?" Lin Che acted as if she hadn't heard him. She hurriedly ran inside and slammed the door. Breathing heavily, she patted her chest. This jerk was teasing her again. Before she could steady her breathing, Jiyu Jingze's voice came from outside again. He still had some work to do, but after being disturbed by her, he suddenly couldn't calm down, so Jiyu Jingze went to the bedroom. Lin Che didn't want this jerk to come in again. She locked the door and said, "You can sleep next door." Hearing Lin Che's words, Jiyu Jingze said gloomily, "Why do I have to sleep next door? It's not like I haven't slept before. I'm exhausted and don't want to be disturbed by you." She had gotten used to it. He said, "This is my bedroom. I'll sleep here if I want to. Open the door for me." "No, I just offended you. How do I know that you won't take revenge on me?" Lin Che found an excuse. In any case, he just said that he didn't want him to come in. Jiyu Jingze snorted. "You'll only offend me more and more. Since I've already offended him, a little more won't matter." "All right, if that's the case, Lin Che, aren't you afraid that I'll take revenge on you? When that time comes, Your movie won't be able to be shown and the company will ban you. What? Lin Che panicked. Jiyu Jingze, you can't be so shameless. We agreed that we wouldn't interfere in each other's affairs after marriage. I've done more shameless things than this. Don't forget, I'm a capitalist. Jiyu Jingze snorted. Lin Che's eyes moved. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still tried to open the door a little. Unexpectedly, Jiyu Jingze's hands were sharp. He pushed the door open with his large palm. Lin Che was so shocked that she took a few steps back. Jiyu Jingze saw this and reached out to grab her waist, pulling Lin Che, who almost fell back. Lin Che grunted. When she came back to her senses, her face almost bumped into Jiyu Jingze's face. Looking at Jiyu Jingze, she felt the temperature on her face rising rapidly. Looking at his thin lips, she felt her throat go hoarse and couldn't speak. She panicked and quickly pushed Jiyu Jingze away. Unexpectedly, Jiyu Jingze frowned and grabbed her wrist. Seeing that she dared to look at him and was desperately avoiding his gaze, he was even more displeased. He pulled Lin Che up and said, "Lin Che, what are you doing? Why do I feel that you've been avoiding me recently?" Lin Che was shocked. Had she been discovered? I'm not avoiding you. She was still trying to push Jiyu Jingze away. Jiyu Jingze's grip tightened. You're not avoiding me? Then why don't you dare to look at me and keep chasing me out? Lin Che quickly turned her head. I'm not. You must be imagining things. Jiyu Jingze pulled Lin Che and pinched her cheeks with his long sleeves, forcing her to look at him. Then look into my eyes and tell me that you're not avoiding me. Lin Che raised his head and looked at the pair of dark eyes that seemed to penetrate deep into his bones. His mouth moved, but no words came out. She was really avoiding him because she felt her body heat up just looking at him. She quickly said, I'm really not avoiding you. Let go of me. She forcefully pushed his hand away. Jiyu Jingze was instantly annoyed. Seeing that Lin Che had turned around, he took a few steps closer and followed up to ask, What's wrong with you, Lin Che? What do you mean what's wrong? I'm fine. I've just been too busy recently. Then why did you chase me out? Of course, Jiyu Jingze wouldn't believe her. Because I don't feel comfortable sleeping in the same room with you. Moreover, we're just faking our marriage. When the time comes, my family can just say that our honeymoon period is over and we're all busy, so it's fine to sleep separately from time to time. Lin Che. Jiyu Jingze suddenly had a bad feeling. You're avoiding me like this. Could it be that you have a man that you like? Otherwise, Jiyu Jingze couldn't figure out why. Lin Che was stunned. She hadn't thought about it in that direction. But since he asked, Lin Che simply said, It's not that I have a man that I like, but I'll have a boyfriend sooner or later. Otherwise, if I start abstinence at this age, I feel that my youth will be wasted. She thought that maybe she really needed a boyfriend. Ever since she was young, she had never liked any other man except for Qin Qing, and she had never been close to any man. Therefore, when she looked at Jiyu Jingze now, she felt restless and impatient. Her body and mind must be out of sync due to the accumulation of hormones. That's why she wanted a man so much. Jiyu Jingze frowned deeply. There seemed to be a dark light flashing in his eyes. Looking at Lin Che's curled-up lips, he suddenly felt a surge of impulse. With a dark look in his eyes, he took a step forward. He pressed down on her shoulder with one hand and cupped the back of her head with the other. He directly bit her red lips. The tip of his tongue swept across her lips. Almost subconsciously, he burrowed into her mouth. Lin Che was stunned. She felt the soft and smooth tongue invading her mouth with a slightly cold feeling. For a moment, she was completely frozen. Jiyu Jingze seemed to want to suck away her soul. He deeply sucked on the tip of her tongue and washed her into his mouth. They were inextricably intertwined. Digression. The next chapter was a paid chapter. The story behind it was extremely exciting. Only by reading further would she be able to dig out more secrets between Lin Che and Prince Charming Jiyu. Yes. Thank you everyone for your support. It's all because of you that Little Clothes is where she is today. Moi tilde 524189129 Mu Meng Meng Fan Group. Ordinary Group. Fans can join tilde knock on door brick. Your favorite character's name in this article. 181465632 Mu Meng VIP fan group. To join, you need to contact the admin and show them a screenshot of your subscription. Welcome to join. Authors Weibo. Search for Yunchi Mu E on Sina Weibo. Follow. Chapter 56. Lin Che still wanted to dodge, but she could clearly feel him pushing her against the wall with one hand. He pressed her against the cold wall. Jiyu Jingze's strong body leaned against her, and one of his hands had already reached under her. The moment their skin touched, Lin Che felt that his hand was burning hot. Her body trembled like a sieve. She could feel his rough fingertips brushing across her skin, leaving waves of shivers. Most of her clothes were lifted up. His hand was moving up along her silhouette when he heard the phone ringing. Jiyu Jingze's lips parted. Breathing rapidly, he glanced at the sound. He cursed inwardly for the irritating sound. Her taste lingered on his lips. He licked it reluctantly. It didn't feel disgusting at all. Instead, it made him feel nostalgic. Lin Che's eyes were misty, and her cheeks were blushing just right. He let go of her. His hand was still burning hot. He took it out, and there was a thin layer of sweat on his palm. He glanced at Lin Che before he turned around and picked up the phone. It was a call from Jiyu Jingming's secretary. Jiyu Jingze picked it up. What's up? Second young master, I just found out that there was a woman who barged in. Does second young master know this person? Yes. Her name is Yu Minmin. It's her. Don't worry, second young master. Mr. President has sent someone to send her back. She should be fine now. That's good. Thank you. You're welcome. Mr. President asked me to say hello to young madam. Mr. President will be going back to the Jiyu family soon. He hopes to see young madam. Is that so? Okay, there will be a chance. He smiled faintly, raised his head, and looked at Lin Che, who was standing to the side, his clothes still in a mess. He put down the phone, looked at Lin Che, and said, "Your agent is fine now." Lin Che looked at him. There was no trace of what had just happened on his face. It was as if nothing had happened. He was still looking at her with clear eyes as he spoke. However, she could still recall the obvious ripples he had left on her body just now. She was furious. She really wanted to kill him. She stomped her feet and said to Jiyu Jingze, "Get out, jerk." Before Jiyu Jingze could react, Lin Che had already strode over and punched him repeatedly. Although it was not painful, it was very annoying. Jiyu Jingze could only step back. Although he could easily press her thin body down, he didn't do so. Jiyu Jingze was so angry that he couldn't help but step back. It was just pushed to the outside. Jiyu Jingze said, "Lin Che, what are you doing?" He grabbed her wrist and looked at her burning cheeks. Lin Che glared at him angrily. "Scram, get out. Rogue." He frowned. "You're my wife, so everything I've done seems to be legal, right?" Lin Che was speechless. Jiyu Jingze frowned and said, "So, how can you find a boyfriend now? Lie and say you're not married?" Lin Che was only thinking about it. He hadn't even put it into action yet, so how could he say it now? Jiyu Jingze stared at her and said seriously, "I won't allow you to find a boyfriend now." Lin Che's heart thumped. What did he mean? Jiyu Jingze looked at her. His expression was gloomy, but there was a deep light in his eyes. "So, you'd better give up on this idea." Lin Che wanted to say something, but Jiyu Jingze suddenly came closer again. "If you must try, I advise you not to try to provoke me." His cold and stiff jawline tightened. When he came closer, he gave off a domineering aura, making Lin Che's heart jump and pound violently in her chest. Lin Che's eyes darted around, and he hurriedly pushed her away. "Don't try to come in and be a hooligan again." Humph. With that, she slammed the door shut. Jiyu Jingze was locked outside just like that. Looking at the tightly shut door, he took a deep breath. Had he been locked out of the bedroom by his wife? "Lin Che. Just you wait." Jiyu Jingze growled at the door. Seeing a servant pass by, he restrained his expression and walked to the guest bedroom, ready to make do with it for the night. Lying on the bed, Lin Che's face was still hot. He tossed and turned, but he couldn't fall asleep. In the other room, Ji Jingze had slept on the sofa for so long. Now that he had finally fallen asleep on the bed, he felt a little uncomfortable. Because Lin Che was living in the bedroom, there was always a faint fragrance in the room. It seemed to be her scent, but it also seemed to be the scent of a girl. Here, there was only the fragrance of the disinfectant on the quilt. Although it wasn't unpleasant, it still made him feel uncomfortable. When he raised his head, he subconsciously wanted to look at the woman who was sleeping badly, but only the wall responded. He faintly felt a little uncomfortable. He lay there for a long time before he fell asleep. The next day, Lin Che had a meeting at the company to decide on the future plans because the TV series had finished filming. Lin Che arrived at the company early. Seeing the dispirited Yu Minmin, he quickly walked over and asked, "Sister Yu, what happened to you yesterday? You suddenly disappeared halfway." Yu Minmin looked a little embarrassed. She raised her head and said, "I drank a little too much." Lin Che said, "I asked someone to go over and ask. They said that you broke into Mr. President's forbidden zone. Are you okay after that?" Yu Minmin combed her hair and said, "When I went over, Mr. President wasn't here yet. I don't know how it became a forbidden zone. Luckily, nothing happened and they sent me back." "Really? That's great. It seems that Mr. President is a good person," Lin Che said. Yu Minmin shrugged and didn't comment, but she looked a little tired. Lin Che said, "You're going to go on a publicity tour next, right?" Yu Minmin said, "Yeah, the TV series has to be aired during the summer. Although we've finished filming, it's going to be the busiest time. You have to be prepared. The company might arrange for you to be interviewed about your speaking skills. If you go out with Ji Jingyu to promote the show, the reporters will definitely catch you and Ji Jingyu and ask you questions. Don't say anything wrong." Lin Che said, "Am I going to be interviewed too?" She was just a small-time artist and had never been interviewed properly. Yu Minmin said, "Of course. You're one of the main leads. Although you're not the main lead, you still have quite a lot of scenes. Moreover, the news about you and Ji Jingyu is always on the headlines." Lin Che thought awkwardly. She hadn't even worked yet and she was already on the headlines. She didn't know if she should be happy or sad. The number of comments is up. Today, for everyone's hard work, I will add a new chapter in the comments section. Thank you for your support tilde, but the update will probably be a little late tilde. Chapter 57. Soon, the first promotional event was launched. Ji Jingyu attended the event with Lin Che. At the event, Lin Che saw Lin Li from afar. Lin Li strode over, followed by a group of assistants and staff. It was a grand sight. Lin Che was sitting in the public dressing room. When he saw Lin Li, he couldn't help but ask, "Isn't she going to put on makeup? Why is she leaving?" The makeup artist glanced at Lin Li and said with a smile, "She's going to a private dressing room with a professional makeup artist. She doesn't need us to put on makeup." Oh. Lin Che understood. She was a star, so of course she was different from the newcomers like them. Behind them, another small-time actor said unwillingly, "I don't see her being that famous. Why is she treated so well? Why is she treated so well? It's comparable to Mu Feiran's." The makeup artist said while casting shadows on Lin Che, "Lin Li is different. She's the future wife of the Qin family and doesn't lack money, so of course she's imposing." Lin Che was amused. She and Lin Li were both members of the Lin family, but no one knew about it. Because the Lin family had always avoided revealing Lin Che's identity as an illegitimate daughter, Lin Che was really dispensable in the Lin family. She was even a hated character. Therefore, it was understandable why no one knew about her birth. Luckily, Lin Che didn't care. If she and Lin Li called each other sisters, it would be even more painful for her. Lin Che put on makeup leisurely and browsed through Weibo. The first batch of promotional photos of the TV series had been posted. Everyone's makeup photos were taken beautifully and posted on various news and Weibo. Lin Che looked at the comments below. Some people were very direct. They looked at Lin Che's photo and felt that she was very beautiful. However, some people were always so vicious. They directly wrote, "She's so ugly." Or they said, "She's so ugly. She doesn't fit the character at all. Her nose is obviously plastic surgery. Which hospital did the surgery? Why does it look exactly like that person's eyes? The same doctor, right?" Lin Che was furious. She held her phone and said gloomily, "How can you say that I'm plastic surgery? I'm all natural, okay?" She looked up at the makeup artist and asked, "Do I look like I'm a plastic surgeon? I want to have plastic surgery, but I need money first. This is my first time taking on a role. Where do I have the money to go for plastic surgery?" The makeup artist burst into laughter. She felt that Lin Che was really interesting. Minute sat at the side eating, waiting for her to do her makeup. "Alright, which newcomer doesn't get scolded first? Plastic surgery is so easy these days, but who can tell that your nose is plastic surgery? It's so flat. If they really spent money to get it done, then the hospital's skills are too poor." Lin Che turned around and grumbled, "It's not that bad." Min couldn't be bothered with her and said to the makeup artist, "Give her more shadows. She's too flat and ugly." While everyone was having a good time, Jingyu was attracted by the laughter and chatter here. "What are they doing over there?" Jingyu asked. "Is it Lin Che?" The manager replied, "She's always chattering wherever she goes. She's really something. She can get along well with everyone. She's silly, but she's really a nice person. Everyone likes to chat with her and she doesn't put on any airs." Jingyu smiled as he looked over. He gave Lin Che a deep look before walking over as well. "Hey, what are you talking about? You look so happy," Jingyu said. Jinyu's arrival stunned the makeup artists and the actors. But seeing that Jinyu seemed to be in a good mood and sat down, they slowly relaxed. Jinyu looked at Lin Che. "I can hear you laughing from afar. You're really loud." Lin Che and Jinyu gradually got to know each other better. He really didn't think that Jinyu was as difficult to get along with as others said. Instead, he was very natural, so their conversation became more natural. "You think it's noisy? If you think it's noisy, go to the private dressing room over there. You're such a famous person, why are you here to make do with us? Hey, you don't welcome me? Don't you see that everyone else is beating drums and gongs to welcome me?" The rest of the people couldn't help but be a bit stunned when they saw the two of them chatting like this. Who said that Jinyu didn't like to chat with the other actors in the crew? He was obviously quite friendly. However, those who knew about it were indeed surprised. They knew that Jinyu seemed to have a good relationship with Lin Che. Otherwise, they wouldn't be chatting so happily. As soon as Lin Li came out, she saw the two of them being surrounded in the middle. She didn't know what they were talking about, but the whole public dressing room seemed to be extremely cheerful and full of laughter. Lin Li snorted in disdain. "This Lin Che is so coquettish." Her assistant said, "Not everyone is like Sister Lin Li, who has a natural advantage. She has no money, no power, no family background, and she doesn't have a rich and handsome fiancé like third young Master Qin. Of course, she can only climb up by seducing men." Hearing her assistant's words, Lin Li felt much better. "Yeah, I don't want to get involved with these strange people. They didn't deserve it." However, seeing that Jinyu also had such a good relationship with her, Lin Li was indeed jealous to death. Soon, the people in the front began to arrange interviews. However, she didn't expect that Jinyu would also take Lin Che with her during the interview. Lin Che was a little reluctant at first, but the reporters were very happy and immediately coaxed the two of them together. Standing next to Jinyu, Lin Che felt very complicated when she saw so many reporters surrounding them with microphones lined up in front of her. In the past few months, she had never imagined that she would one day stand under the spotlight and accept an interview. However, in just a few months, her world had undergone earth-shattering changes. The reporters were aggressive. They looked at Lin Che and asked, "Lin Che, how did you feel when you and Jinyu were mentioned as a couple last time?" Lin Che didn't expect the reporters to be so direct and didn't react for a moment. However, Jinyu, who was next to him, immediately rushed over and said, She must feel great. After all, it's a great honor to have a scandal with a handsome guy like me. Lin Che looked up gratefully. Jiyu Jingyu gave her a comforting smile as if saying, "You can count on me." The reporter said, "Lin Che, did you see her again in private?" Jiyu Jingyu rushed over again and said, "How? Thanks to you, I don't even dare to see my friends at gatherings, okay? It's not easy for me to make friends, so please don't make trouble, okay?" Hearing Jiyu Jingyu's words, everyone burst into laughter. Lin Che really felt that Jiyu Jingyu did a good job. Every time a reporter asked something, he could change the topic. This made the interview interesting, and at the same time, he wouldn't be asked too many unnecessary questions. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.